I'd like to thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're going to start the meeting. First, before we really begin, I'd like to welcome Steve Chismar. He is one of our new members of the Board of Town Commissioners and is their liaison to the Planning Commission. So thank you for joining us. Before we begin, Kevin's going to give us some housekeeping rules. Oh, yes?
I can barely hear you in the back.
Oh, dear. Is that, I can't, Is that better? Yes. All right.
Okay. These proceedings are being audibly and visually recorded and streamed on YouTube. The link is provided on the agenda and that's provided tonight and on the town website. Just to know that when you come up to speak, you are going to have to say your name and address, and it will be, again, streamed. Please silence your cell phones. Restrooms are on your left down the hallway. Each project will be taken in order unless the agenda is revised. Please make sure you sign up if you would like to speak on any of the proposals. The process for each application will be a summary by town staff and a presentation by the applicant and any experts they may have. Once the applicant is finished with their initial presentation, the public can make a statement or ask questions of the Planning Commission. And just to be clear, you're not asking questions of the applicant directly, you're asking questions to the Planning Commission. And if the Planning Commission wishes to turn those questions around and ask the applicant, they may do so. After that, the applicant will then have the opportunity to sum up their project. When you speak, again, please state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes to speak unless you are representing an organization in which you will then have 6 minutes to speak. Please speak directly into the microphone so everyone can hear. The hearing tonight was advertised in the local paper on November 27th or 24th. The property was posted on November 27th. The adjacent property owners were notified by letter on November 22nd. Adjacent property owners in the case of the mall are anybody who is abutting or would be abutting the property if a local county or town street were not intervening. That does not mean that if you live down the gateway or down a side street, you would not have been notified. The revised exhibits were also reposted on the town website under development applications. For the commissioners, hard copies of all public comment that was submitted to the town have been included in your package that you have tonight, and they were also sent to you digitally over the last couple of weeks. One item that you need to be aware of when you look at the Harford Mall or any development from here on in is the 2022 growth report has been accepted by the town board, and those numbers would be applicable from this point forward. It doesn't change much on how you review the development regulations, but that is a new, those are new numbers which you have in your package. Let's see. I have nothing else. Move forward.
All right, we'll do a roll call for the members that are here. Please just answer present. For the commissioners, Phil, Rob.
Move that we suspend that since it's clear we're all here. So.
Okay. Don Coates.
Here.
What? Thank you.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Claire. Keith.
Here.
And Lois Kelly. And our town council.
Elizabeth Thompson, Town Council for the Town of Bel Air.
Very good. All right, so you have an agenda in front of you. We will begin with the approval of the minutes from November the 2nd. Anyone here have any additions or changes to the minutes? Can I have a motion for approval?
Move they be accepted as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, on the agenda that you have, we're going to make one change. We're going to move up the request from Ashley Sherwood. And Kevin, if you will present that, and we'll begin there.
Okay, this This is a property that is at 10 West Broadway. It's a B3A General Business Gateway. The applicant is requesting approval to allow use of off-site parking as part of the new salon spa, which will occupy 10 West Broadway. The 3,040 square foot building will not be expanded, so no site plan, no landscape plan is required. This existing building will accommodate professional services and personal services in addition to the salon. So what you have is a salon spa with 10 stations that requires 20 spaces, a dentist, which is 900 square feet, requires 3 spaces, a massage therapy is 786 square feet and requires 3 spaces. So that is 26 spaces. They have 16 existing spaces within 10 West Broadway. So an additional 10 spaces would be needed to satisfy the current code. The applicant has reached out to the abutting property owner at 48 West Broadway to facilitate a parking agreement. A draft of this agreement is attached to your staff report. The use of the abutting property is a funeral home, which contains approximately 61 existing parking spaces. The required parking for a funeral home is 1 space per 50 square feet of net floor area, with a minimum of 30 spaces to start out. They have to have at least 30 spaces. A cursory review of the McComas Funeral Home appears to show 2,500 square feet of gathering space that would be used by the public, resulting in 50 spaces required. This leaves an excess parking available for 10 West Broadway to utilize. There you go. And I'll turn it over to the applicant if she has anything that she needs to say.
If you'll state your name and address, please.
Ashley Sherwood, 3338 Incline Court, Street, Maryland, 21154.
All right. Do you have anything that you'd like to address to the commissioners?
No.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
I guess the only question I have, what happens when there's a big funeral and you have a big,
If you have a big funeral and you have,
it's a holiday, prom, Christmas, Valentine's Day.
So there is street parking on both sides of Broadway that can be utilized as well. I don't intend on being open on weekends or after 7 p.m. I know that there are viewings and funerals that take place during the day, but
Mhm.
most of the McComas's business is done out of their Abingdon branch, as I've been told. I've been to the property every day for the last 2 months, in and out with builders, et cetera, and the parking lot is always empty.
Well, and Mr. McComas is entering into this voluntarily, so he's aware of that potentiality.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I had a couple questions for the applicant. Ms. Sherwood, you are the contract purchaser of this property, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you in a due diligence period?
Yes.
Okay, when are you supposed to close?
17th of December.
17th of December?
Yes.
Okay, did you prepare this agreement?
No.
No, who did?
Mr. McComas' attorney.
Is that Judith McComas? Do you know?
Is it what?
Is her name Judy McComas?
The attorney?
Yes.
No.
No, who's the attorney? Do you know?
Eric McLaughlin, I believe.
Oh, okay, Eric McLaughlin?
I
Okay.
think so.
I'm going to recommend some changes, just to make sure that the town is protected. This will be recorded in the land records. She is not the interest holder of so she can't sign off on this agreement as right now. She doesn't own the property. She can sign it as a contract purchaser, but Ms. Schreiber will have to sign it before the 17th. So just so you know, that I'm going to have those changes made to the agreement. But otherwise, theoretically, I have no issue with it.
Very good.
Should we change the name in our work tonight, or should we delay our whole process until she actually owns the property?
Right now, it looks like she signed it and she got the property owners to sign the application. So I'm okay with that. Just depending on the time frame, it's either going to be her sign it or both of them sign it, as me and Kevin work with them. So you guys are okay because the actual concept of the shared or satellite parking isn't going to change. It's just going to be some change in language and, you know, adding some names and whatnot.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Keith, I believe you had a question?
Kevin, the agreement takes great pains to state that it's revocable at will on 30 days' notice. What happens to their parking requirement if McComas elects to terminate the agreement?
Yeah.
Oh. They can't hear you. I think the question was, is the, right now, the draft agreement, it says it's a revocable, which means that either party could pull out of the agreement at any time. I believe Ms. Thompson would probably structure the agreement so that the town has to agree
Yes.
to.
So that's one of the issues with the agreement that I have is the town is not a party to the agreement. So in order for them to revoke it, they would have to place us on notice and get our permission in order to revoke it. Or the other thing I could do, if the McComases are okay with it, is I can make it irrevocable. And then just say, you know, the party's going to amend it, and everybody's got to agree, and it has to come back to you guys. You can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we do not make that decision. That's something you'll discuss with them and then come back. Okay.
Certainly, I can do that.
Right.
I mean, if we have any problems, we'll bring it back before you.
Great.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Well, again, I guess my concern is if the McComases don't agree to not having it revocable,
Then-
what happens to their approval if the McComases
The town would have to
revoke
be,
the agreement?
the town would have to be satisfied with the agreement, or she would not get her use and occupancy.
And again, they're not going to be able to revoke it without the town agreeing. I'll make sure of that. You see what I'm saying?
Which very well might mean that they won't agree to it.
Well, it could be. I mean, it seems they've gone this far. So, but we'll see.
We do have a good rapport.
All right. Do I have a motion?
It's hard to approve an agreement that you don't have in final form.
I agree. I concur. I don't know why we would be doing anything tonight until the issues get
You're
resolved.
You're not approving the agreement. You're approving the ability for two properties to, or for her property, her use, to use parking on another property. It's not even going to be shared parking because it's not required by code. So it's just the ability to have for her business to have to utilize parking off-site from her property. So the agreement will come, and we can make a condition that you approve the agreement in a month's time or whenever it's available and she's taken full possession of the property. It's up to you, but it's not really the agreement you're approving. Up to you.
I mean, we've done subject to things in the past, so I'm okay with, you know, waiting until it all pans out, and as long as it works, then we're good.
Right. Go ahead.
None of these spaces are designated, are they? Like the Shabbat at ShopRite is designated 22 spaces or whatever it happens to be. This is to be able to park anywhere on the McComas lot.
There would be a requirement for signage that says,
Signage.
that sends people from her property to the McComas property in order, so that they're not going somewhere else and parking, you know, on somebody
Right.
else's property.
they can
But
park
But
anywhere.
there's not any particular space that would be designated for her use only.
They can park anywhere on the McComas lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is similar to the Chabad.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were designated spots.
All right. Keith, are you comfortable
Yes,
passing a motion? Would you like to?
casting a motion.
Yes, how about casting?
Okay, well. And I move that the planning commission,
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You need to see if there's any from the
I
public.
move that the.
I'm
plan-
sorry. I'm sorry. Is anyone in the public, would they like to speak to this issue?
We thought that's why everyone came tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, Keith.
I move that the planning commission approve the use of satellite parking for 10 West Broadway based upon the conditions stated in the staff report.
Second.
All right.
Either one of us.
Phil,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes.
Hope it all works out.
All right, the next issue is under old business, and Kevin, if you will present that, please.
All right, this project initially came in front of the Planning Commission on November 2nd. At that time, the board continued the hearing to allow the applicant to submit additional information and clarification of their project. They did so at the date and time that was required. That was provided again on the website for the public and provided to you in your package. This is Harford Mall Business Trust, care of CBL Associates as the owner. This is B3 zoning. The applicant's requesting site plan and landscape plan approval to construct a 249 dwelling unit multifamily use within the project area of Harford Mall. The proposed residential development requires conversion of the defined use of the Harford Mall from a shopping center to a mixed-use center, which requires a special development approval. The applicant also desires subdivision plan approval to create a separate lot from the current Harford Mall parcel. The proposed project's reviewed in aggregate, which requires all parcels and buildings within the Harford Mall project area to meet the criteria of a mixed-use center. The existing area of the Harford Mall is 447,449 square feet of commercial space, excluding common areas within the mall. The residential development is proposed within the existing parking lot between the mall and Bolton Street. The existing Harford Mall project area is described, it encompasses several buildings, including the recently approved grocery store and shops near Tollgate Road, the Macy's building, and the Macy's furniture store, and the mall itself. The proposed parking is located throughout the site and must total 3.5 parking spaces for the commercial portion of the mixed-use area. Because the construction of the multifamily development will remove several existing parking spaces, the applicant is proposing to abandon 34,307 square feet of commercial space within the mall. The applicant must provide evidence these spaces have not been occupied for a minimum of 1 year. These spaces cannot be relocated unless the new space, again, has not been in use for 1 year in order to meet the definition of Section 165-104. The resulting decrease of floor area allows the project to meet the ratio for mixed-use development with 1,446 spaces. The applicant has also proposed to exclude the interior mall corridor space with the parking calculation, and an interpretation from the zoning administrator is attached to the staff report.
Excuse me, we don't need to do anything to formalize that we are continuing. We had a motion to continue at the last meeting. We don't need to,
I don't believe so.
okay, as
Yeah.
long as we don't, okay.
Staff is still concerned with the lack of pedestrian-friendly streetscape along the frontage of the proposed multifamily building. It's recommended more information be provided at the hearing today. The applicant has provided both active and passive open space as part of their development. Open space is required at 15% of the total acreage, which equals 5.07 acres. A minimum of 40% of this requirement must be usable or active open space. That equals to be 2.03 of the 5.07. That leaves 3.04 passive open space as the remainder. The applicant has proposed to provide an open space courtyard within the proposed multifamily residential. That's 6,803. Also, there's another courtyard at 8,604 square feet, which would pass for active open space since it'll be used. Passive open space throughout the site is 51,371 square feet. The remaining passive and active open space required is a 3.53 acres and is proposed to be provided through fee in lieu at $50,000 per acre. The Planning Commission must make a determination that providing the remaining open space is impractical, or you cannot allow that if it's not proven by the applicant. The applicant has revised the landscape plan and adjusted the location of several street trees. The plan appears to meet the Bel Air Town Code at this point with the revised landscape plan. The applicant has provided revised color renderings of the proposed architecture for the multifamily building. Supplemental comments from the town architectural consultant are attached to the staff report. The appearance of the proposed architecture and how the building relates to the public side of the development should be addressed by the applicant at the hearing. The applicant has amended the proposed brick to be light red and adjusted the fiber cement to be brighter in appearance. It is recommended that the parking garage facade design be adjusted to conceal its use. The mixed-use centers are a special development and must meet performance standards as outlined in section 165-53I-2G. The architecture must be in harmony with the rest of the development and with the neighborhood as much as practicable. The applicant should explain how the performance standards are addressed at this hearing. There's no amendment to the previously submitted preliminary subdivision plan. And again, the architectural comments are provided, and then recommendations regarding any conditions of approval are provided.
All right, thank you. Representatives for this project?
Good evening, Bradley R. Stover with the firm of Robinson and Stover. My address is 124 North Main Street. Home address is 1208 Wishing Well Court. That's also Bel Air, but it's 21015. With me tonight are representatives of the engineer for the project, Frederick Ward Associates, also representatives from CBL Associates, which is the owner of the Harford Mall property. And just to clarify any misconceptions that may have come out of the last meeting, CBL is not a developer out of Massachusetts. They are the property owner. They have been since 2003. They've been a business owner in this town for 20 years and have paid a significant amount of taxes. Also with me tonight are representatives of Castle Development, the Maryland-based developer of the project. As Mr. Small just said, we were back here last month, November 2nd, on the applicant's request for site plan, landscape plan, special development, and subdivision plan approval for a mixed-use project at the Harford Mall. We have received the Planning Commission's letter of November 3rd, outlining the additional information that this Planning Commission requested. As Mr. Small just said, we have provided and will highlight tonight some of that additional information. We do not intend to rehash that which we said back on November 2nd. We intend to address specifically the items set forth in the Planning Commission's November 3rd letter. And as I read that letter, it generally focuses on three specific topics. One, what's termed as a master plan for the center, and tonight you're going to see a concept for potential future development above and beyond that which we are specifically seeking approval for this evening. As Mr. Small mentioned, architectural renderings with potential different iterations of the project will be discussed tonight. And then finally, clarification with respect to parking calculations and open space. We do concur with the written interpretation and the guidance made by the Town Planning Department in this respect. You will hear a presentation clarifying that kiosks that are located within corridors have been calculated within usable space for parking, and you will hear some presentation as far as the open space and why that is not fully practical to provide at this site. I do want to reiterate the position that I took at the last hearing that I don't believe this is a quasi-judicial body. We are happy to answer your questions, but these are not witnesses who are under oath that we believe would be subject to questions by folks in the audience. Again, we will listen and we will certainly answer your questions. We believe this is a by right project as the law exists, and we would respectfully request this evening an affirmative vote of the approvals being sought. With that, I will hand it over to the first representative. John.
Hi, John Michelle. As Brad stated, my home residence is 11 Belmont Road, Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. Office address 2030 Hamilton Place Boulevard, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I work for CBL Properties. We are a mall owner, landlord, and developer, and have owned the mall since 2003. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to present in the continued hearing. As background for the hearing tonight, Harford Mall sits on an approximate 33-acre campus, much of which is underutilized parking fields. For decades, it has operated as a traditional enclosed mall. As the industry has evolved with a preference toward lifestyle and open-air centers, the property evolved to include the shops at Harford Mall in 2006-07. Now, as the industry again faces challenges, including consolidation in the retail space, Harford Mall again faces a reinvention, some of which has already begun. We have on the east side of the property a redevelopment of the former Sears building by SJC with the grocery store, and on the west side, Macy's is still operating. In 2005, did I state that incorrectly? Well,
Macy would be the east side, right?
yeah, okay. Well, no, I maybe need to go back to real estate developer school, so thank you for the clarification, Kevin. For additional background, in 2005, the mall property, excluding the annex, generated a $163,000 in real estate taxes for the town. County taxes were more than double that amount and not included in that calculation. In 2019, mall-related entities paid over $280,000 in real estate taxes to the town, and again, more than double that amount to the county. In 2023, 2024, the mall-related entities will pay $176,000 to the town. That represents a 37% reduction in just 5 years. Keeping that in mind, this number is continuing to fall. The luxury apartment project that we've proposed will add over $340,000 in new real estate taxes to the town. CBL and our partners are committed to the long-term viability of Harford Mall, the town of Bel Air, and Harford County, and that's why we're here before you tonight. As proposed, our plan allows us to simultaneously operate the mall retail complex, which continues to generate tax revenue for the town, while our partners at Castle Development develop an underutilized parking field adjacent to the mall, creating additional tax revenue for the town. The proposed project is a by right development, as we believe, designed in congruence with the town's comprehensive land use plan and town ordinances.
John, excuse me just one second. You've used the term by right. What? Just,
I'll let Brad.
I'm just
speak.
trying to, I don't
Yeah,
understand the term.
Brad can answer that question.
Yeah, I think what he's referring to is this is not a project where we are seeking any Board of Appeals approval by way of a special exception.
Oh, BYR, okay, now I got it, okay.
BY, not BU.
Right, got it, okay. Now I'm good. Well, I didn't know that, I hadn't heard that term previously, now I have, so
Okay.
now I understand it. Thank you.
So as I was saying, we believe this has been designed in accordance with the town's land use plan and town ordinances. The plan we're proposing enhances the tract of land by replacing parking with green spaces, creating a connected community with walkability to surrounding amenities with an aesthetic that complements that of the town. Most importantly, it is intentionally set up to create a future grid that allows for the intentional block redevelopments of the mall and possibly in the future of the Macy's. At the November 2 Planning Commission hearing, we presented the plan you see before you, proposing a luxury apartment development at Harford Mall, and the commission requested additional information regarding a master plan. Now on the screen, you see a response to that request in which we are sharing a vision including additional retail activation, and a vision of a public open space amenity incorporated into the 33-acre master plan. Few points I'd ask you to consider when looking at this plan. Reiterating what Brad said, we are not seeking approval for this phase of the project tonight. This is being presented at the request of the commission and is intended to provide a vision for what could be redeveloped in the future. The site has numerous existing agreements in place that need to be respected and negotiated before we will make a formal submission to the town on this phase of a redevelopment. The open space build-out for the entire development requires the entire project to be redeveloped. This plan requires another phase of redevelopment. I want to reiterate that this is an example of how a 2.82 acre open space plaza could be incorporated into a future development. Would like you to take note of the grid that takes shape as part of the luxury apartment phase, which creates a walkable mixed-use environment wholly consistent with modern planning principles. With that, I will turn the presentation to my partner, Kyle James of Castle Development.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Kyle James, Castle Development, one Olympic Place, Towson, Maryland. Can you hear me now? Yes. Yes, no, okay. Okay. I'm with Castle Development Partners. I want to follow up on the future master plan and how it related to open space and fee in lieu. As John stated, we picture this as a 30-acre mixed-use parcel, as does the town. Currently, only a small portion of that, 10 to 15%, can be redeveloped today because of existing leases, differing ownerships, whatever it may be. It's clear that it's, you look at the site plan as today, you see Macy's is approximately probably a third of the entire mixed-use parcel, one giant retail box, and two very unfortunate, just mostly empty parking lots a lot of the time. We have the retail annexation in the front, the Sears redevelopment, which is under different ownership. You have the Macy's furniture store, the existing mall today, so there's a lot of different factors that come into redeveloping this as a whole, and that takes...
Are Macy's furniture and Macy's department store, are they under the same lease, or how does that work?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think when you start to take a look at the whole picture, it's not a perfect square where each new development will be perfectly proportional to the next in size, in scale, or in open space. And I think that's an important factor when we're talking about what's practical, what's impractical, and when can we start to unlock new open space as this whole entire 30-acre redevelopment kind of progresses. As stated in the previous planning commission, we'll offer to pay the remaining of the fee in lieu in cash. Fee in lieu is often argued against because of developers not shouldering the environmental impact on their property and trying to push it off their property. It's important to note that this is a gray field. It's an empty parking lot with little landscaping. It's the worst offender of runoff that exists. This is not a green field. We're not tearing down trees. This is not some open field where we're starting new development. It's a parking lot at the end of the day. Developing this substantially reduces runoff and has a positive environmental impact as we remove acres of runoff area and make landscape upgrades outside of the apartment parcel that are in addition to the public infrastructure upgrades we're making as well, including sewer upgrades across Route 1, replacing and maintaining a traffic light that the town owns itself on Bolton Street, and expanding and adding biker trails on the public roads and right-of-way at our own expense. And then I want to share the updated, is it enter? The updated schematics. Did I go too far? There we go. So this is the Bolton Street view of the updated schematic. Obviously, I think far different from what was shared at the November 2nd Planning Commission. When we were looking at this, we decided to look out at the surrounding retail, the surrounding neighborhood, going off of the new grocery store, going off the existing mall, the retail across the street, matching the tans, the grays, the different colors, keeping the red brick that we think is in line with the town of Bel Air, much more I think, visually appealing, pleasing, pedestrian friendly in a sense as well, where it's not, whether from a distance or whether up close, I think it's much more approachable to look at and fits well within the neighborhood.
Does that include the bike lanes as well? Have you,
I don't think this schematic includes the bike lanes.
have you included them in the
Yeah.
plan?
Yes, they're in the plan, yes. It'll be on probably one of the actual landscaped or engineered plans.
How about the pull-off for the buses to pick the students up? Have you designated an area for that?
I believe that it can be, we haven't designated an area, we've talked about it with the county, but it was talked about, because it can't be on a public road or a private road, there's some rule, I think, about where it can and cannot be, so that was kind of to be determined, but we talked about, I think, maybe Bolton Street at the light at one point, and then we have a vestibule. That's why we take the amenity going through the entire building, so that they can wait inside the building. But it was thought about and talked about, but I don't think at this stage that's even something that's determined.
Okay. But of course, it would have to be determined before you actually begin the building, I would think.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
certainly, yep,
Okay.
understood. And Tom, you want to take the landscape?
Tom Miner, Frederick Ward Associates, 5 South Main. To address real quick the bus stop aspect. So I know there was a request to have some aspect of a bus stop there, so we could put signage out there for a stop location, and there's the vestibule that passes through the location to there. Since it's a bus stop just in the morning for children, we didn't want to have an entire pull-off lane, because that's pretty substantial for just a kind of a morning, evening, one-off type use. There is a public bus route that's located down just across from the parking lot entrance that's currently servicing for public buses. So that was kind of the discussion, how we were going to approach that request that the school system had.
The children would be returning home in the afternoon, wouldn't they? I mean,
So by Bolton Street, so they would be passing through Bolton Street. They would be dropped off at this entrance here, and then be able to go directly inside. Yes, the cars would have to go the other way rather than having pulling off. But honestly, I think that's kind of better to have cars having to stop rather than having a bus pull off. It's not a mass transit bus stop. The mass transit bus stop is already provided internal to the mall.
There's that also the fear of the combustibility for electrical vehicles. And they requested that they not be inside the parking lot.
Sure.
So how have you been able to address that?
So we can provide electric vehicle parking along the street side here, along this frontage along here. So the number of electric vehicles and that amount is, would be to be determined, and we would meet all the fire code requirements that would apply.
You're not going to have any charging stations in the garage, are you?
No, sir.
No, okay.
No, we won't, just for the record. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to address the bus stop aspect of it. Typically, we were going to handle it via signs just because of the massive amount of impact we would have to provide for that very limited bus stop usage. We thought that a corridor would be more amenable to students. There was concern brought up, go to the landscape plan. There was concern brought up about landscaping on the internal corridor side, and actually I kind of want to, there we go. We've added trees along there, ginkgos, and then same with, we've also added benches, kind of more amenity features to give it more of a walkable, sittable type corridor and atmosphere. That aspect will be, continue to be improved upon as the rest of the mall is developed in the future. This is just kind of the one end of the bookend situation. Sorry, a little slow to load. There we go. So we've added trees and benches along this area here. And again, there's also stormwater planting beds located here as well, if you can kind of see in where I'm circling. But so that was kind of our take on trying to increase the planting and the requirements. The planting area, all of our plantings are code compliant. We're meeting all of the requirements that the landscape or the manual provides and requires. This is above and beyond to try to increase the walkability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, can you actually speak to the parking and the kiosk as part of the calculation?
So with the kiosks, we're removing those spaces. We provided an exhibit showing the removal of the kiosk spaces, which would be de-leased. The approval process to go through engineering is going to take at least a year. So assuming we're approved here tonight, then it's easy for us to have that year commitment to have it de-leased. Much of the spaces are generally de-leased anyway throughout the year. So we have, in our calculations, we've shown all of those spaces removed, the kiosk spaces, and resultingly the corridors then are no aspect of the corridor then would be leased. Same with the other associated retail spaces that have currently not been leased out, and there's plenty of that as we've discussed. So,
I think I'll clarify that.
Sure.
The kiosks were included as retail space in the parking calculation. They're not excluded from the retail space as part of the calculation. So what we're saying is we have parking to adequately provide for the ratio that's needed by the retail space used by the kiosks in the corridors. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, Tom? Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess to put an additional point on that, that was raised as a concern last time we were here, that the corridor space, that there's kiosks there, and quite frankly, this time of year, there are kiosks there. But what the applicants would certainly agree to, if you look at the recommendations in the planning department's report, it speaks to that agreement that would require the shuttered spaces within the mall to be closed and remain closed. They would agree to do the same for any temporary month-to-month kiosk space within the corridors.
So just to clarify, Mr. Stover, so the agreement that your client is willing to make is that it will sign it with the town, that it is abandoning the spaces that are currently not leased, and that it is also including in those abandoned spaces, if you will, the kiosks, and they will not relet it.
Correct.
Is that your representation?
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
That's right. Yep. With that, Madam Chair, we would open up either to your questions or public comment.
Who would like to go again?
Quick question is, if Harford County Public Schools insisted on a pull-off at an appropriate location that they preferred, would you oppose that?
I'm going to look at the engineer to answer that, or...
Well, first, I mean, if that is, first of all, Kyle Whitman, Castle Development, 12324 Michaelsford Road, Cockeysville, Maryland, 21030. We would certainly make that commitment. We want the kids to be safe. That's certainly something that we could figure out with our engineering team if, practicable for our design of the project and within the code requirements. Now, I will say that I'm sure there are Baltimore County public school stops that stop on 2-lane roads with traffic behind them and in front of them, so it would not be abnormal for that to happen.
It's just that the town is going to defer
Okay.
Yes.
to the Board of Education
The-
regarding how those stops are.
The existing transit stops, they're on private road, they're in the mall,
Sure.
they're-
Yes, they're on a private access point right here, and the school system
Yeah.
doesn't want to go through, which
they
is
don't go on
reasonable.
private roads, right.
The unlike a transit system where they're coming through every hour, every half hour. There's not. You're only talking about at
Twice a
least
day.
a high, elementary, middle, and high. So you're talking about 6 trips a day to then have that entire bus pad, concrete. It's typically, it's just a lot of infrastructure to put in for those minimal trips. If it's to be required, we have room to fit it. It's just not typical to put it in. Yeah, so we would and could do it if need be.
And you understand there's nothing the town could do about that. Would be up to the county and the school board, so.
Bike lane? Yeah, there's also within the bike lane here for that. There's, the roadway is, I believe, 15 feet wide?
15.
It changes width, that's why but yeah, it's 15 feet wide in that location. So we have room, that's why it's not terribly to widen it out. However, my concern is then you get people past their cars then going past the bus when you're pulling off there. So it's not a net complete benefit, because now you're increasing the ability for someone just to zip by the bus when kids are getting out, where right now the bus blocks that travel way for that 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm retired, but my wife, who was a teacher, and my son and daughter-in-law and my daughter are teachers, and I decided I'm going to drive a school bus now, and they thought I was crazy.
Right.
little loony, but I can't see building something that the school bus would roll into. I think right on the road there, and the students will get on door side, because the Board of Education really doesn't. They can't prohibit, because there are certain stops where the students do have to cross the road, but in every possible situation, the kids enter the door side, and I can see it, on the Bolton Street. I don't know why you'd have a pull-off. I've been driving a bus for 13 years, and I've done a number of routes, and I've never seen one. Everybody's picked up.
Yeah, and if I could also expand on that, I think if I remember at the concept meeting that we had, and this first came up from the Board of Education, it eventually evolved into providing a safe space for the students to wait, which is why we extended the amenity area all the way through. We've actually lost units, so that'll be a nice, warm, cozy area with seating for those students in the morning.
Well, that'll be exceptional, because there aren't many students that have that kind of a waiting area, Okay.
Do you want to? I'm sorry, if public questions will come in after we've finished questioning them. Go ahead.
Kevin,
I thought you said earlier that if we had questions, we could directly address
When it opens to public comments, so you have, in time you will.
Kevin, in your introductory remarks, you referred to this
Yes.
as having been accepted by the town, and this presumably supplements or replaces the letter from Harford County that we got in.
You always go by the growth report. That's what is accepted by the town board, and that's what they direct you to regulate development.
Yes, that was just adopted by the Board of Town Commissioners on the 4th, Mr. Powell.
This.
Yes, sir.
So
That's what you go by.
these numbers
Yes.
apply to this application.
Correct.
That's correct.
And I hope I'm correct in thinking that the proposed amendment to the adequate public facilities part of our code is not yet effective.
Correct.
That's correct.
So at this point in time, the requirement is that the enrollment at the elementary school which serves the site and all abutting elementary school attendance areas is greater than 110% of the rated capacity, or is projected to be greater than 110% within 3 years. That's a prohibitive factor that, if
Yes,
that's true, development can occur.
correct.
Well, according to these figures, Bel Air Elementary is currently at 109, and is projected to be at 111, then 112.14, and then 113.17. Homestead Wakefield, which is another abutting elementary school district, is currently at 115. It's projected to go to 116, then 117 for the 2 years following that. How
Correct.
can we approve this?
This project sends their kids to Red Pump Elementary.
I understand, but our ordinance says it's not just the school district that serves the project, it's all abutting elementary school districts.
No, the way that the way that the code reads is that it's the project, not only does the abutting or the attendance area for whatever the project is within have to be below the 110%, but in addition to, all the abutting attendance areas also have to be over 110%. That's the current code.
So if any one of them is within, okay.
So I have a question regarding that too, because today I got off of the Harford County Public School website their capacity enrollment and projections for as of September 30th, 2023. And Red Pump, for instance, is at 102% capacity, and 24 it'll be 101% capacity. So, you know, it's kind of going down, and but yet you say we're tied to this report, which has a different.
Correct.
We double checked that. It's in the statute, and it clearly says, all approvals of residential single-family subdivision plans and site plans for multifamily development shall be subject to findings of adequate school capacity based on the standards set forth in this section and the current and projected use levels described in the annual growth report. So, for example, what Kevin had received as far as comments from the Board of Ed, you can't consider that. It has to be the annual growth report. At the time when we first had the hearing, it was the 2021. As of Monday, it's now the 2022, since no decision has been made by the Planning Commission. Does that help?
I'm not sure I'm clear on the question of whether it's strictly in the case of the elementary school, which seems to be the one in question, are we governed by strictly the Red Pump or by the three in the area?
Red Pump Road.
That fits within the code, Liz, that tonight we're just considering this in the context of Red Pump Elementary School, adequacy there.
Correct. That's my understanding as well. And
Okay.
right now it says, and all abutting elementary school districts is greater than 110% of the rated capacity, or is projected to be greater than 110% within 3 years. So Red Pump is what is the current, it's Red Pump, Bel Air Middle, Bel Air High. So according to that annual growth report, Red Pump's at 102, Bel Air's at 92, and Bel Air High's at 84. Okay.
You're looking at middle school and high school.
Yes,
Yep.
that's all three servicings.
Right.
Yeah. If you guys are done, I did have one issue to put on the record with Mr. Stover.
Well, I'm not done,
No,
but,
there's going to be more.
but go ahead with.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Stover, I just want to clarify something for the record. It's our understanding that the signal at Bolton Street that was reviewed for the traffic impact study does not meet warrants. Is that your client's understanding?
So the signal meets one warrant. So yes, it doesn't meet two warrants.
Okay, so it doesn't meet the entire standard, correct?
You can have a signal without meeting warrants.
Okay, Kevin, do you say it's not meeting warrants?
It does not meet warrants. There's more than 8 warrants that you have to meet.
Okay. So that being said, under the town's policies, that signal goes away. According to the Department of Planning, it doesn't meet warrants. It's our understanding that the developer wants to keep the signal. Is that correct?
Correct. There was discussions and negotiations to ensure that the signal remained due to the fact that there's existing leases on other portions of properties that have that. It's important to have a signal for commercial resource or reasons. And so rather than removing that signal, there's been an agreement that the developers will be paying for the cost of that signal
Okay.
to stay in place.
So that is my understanding as well. I just want to make it clear for the record. Mr. Stover, your client is agreeing to pay for all upkeep, maintenance, replacement, everything related to that signal. The town of Bel Air will not be responsible for any costs associated with that signal. And we'll enter into a written agreement that will be recorded in the land records.
That's
So in
correct.
the event your client sells the property, it will one written and buy the land.
Be in the chain of title, that's right.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz.
Don,
Additional
go ahead.
I know we're not looking at phase 2 tonight, but I'm curious as what is the, outside of the Macy's property and the property, I guess your avenue type property where Five Guys and Qdoba and all those are, because it looks like that's going to stay. But in phase 2, where you were to eliminate the rest of the mall, what's your longest lease there? Your longest existing lease that you have with anybody in that section?
We have control of about 95% of the mall by 2026. There's a couple leases that we will need to negotiate terminations with that go through 2027.
So if you did not get, if you were not to get those terminations earlier, by 2027, the mall would be empty.
It could be empty. We can certainly
Well,
continue.
it's either the
Well,
lease
there-
terminates at a certain time
So-
or they get to
There's,
extend it.
we,
That's what I'm trying to
well,
get
in the
an idea.
industry too, we do things called one-year leases, and I'm not being smart, but,
No, no,
but there's a way to keep the lights on and keep control of the property, depending upon how viable the inside of the property maintains itself, and it's a pretty typical strategy that people in our position do when we want to keep something active while we're figuring out what to do, recognizing that all the terms don't expire at the same time because we didn't enter into the project and start leasing it with the idea that we were going to want to unwind it ever. So the earliest it could happen would be 2026. It could take another year, it could take 2 more years, and during that time period, you would probably see limited activity inside the mall. Some tenants might continue to operate, some wouldn't. There's obviously other activity around the perimeter with the Macy's, the grocery store, and I'll call it the front T for lack of a better term.
Right. Well, but I'm assuming since you're not tearing the front down, that still stays.
So again, this is a concept plan, and the front.
Well, again, I understand
The
it's a
reason
concept
the
plan,
front
but-
stays is because the front has longer term on it. And it's,
It's
a
new.
newer, and I mean, there's a viable way to do what we showed you here, but this is by no means intended to represent what we're going to do.
I understand we're not locking you into anything,
I
but
know.
I have to say that I find this phase 2 plan a lot more palatable than another 400 units of apartments here. So,
I appreciate that, and we're not showing another 400 units of apartments because we expect you to stay that, and, we don't want to do things that are not going to be welcomed here.
no. And I mean, I also have to send my appreciation to redo the color because you took away the black hole, and it looks a lot nicer.
And we were showing you the plan which we were seeking approval for, so there was no strategic omission. It was not part of our application, and we heard the request that was made, and this was drawn to articulate an answer to that request with the understanding that anything that we bring back is coming before this body. And, you know, we.
So assuming things stay status quo, by 2030, you would anticipate the mall to be empty and possibly up for redevelopment
Yes,
for this next phase?
I do.
I have anything else?
Am I interpreting it correctly that 100% of the active open space is dedicated to the apartments and the tenants thereof?
In this plan or in
In
the?
the plan that's before us tonight, yes.
In this plan, which again is not a plan that's being proposed, it's just an example, the active space would be for the public. The park area in the middle between the retail and the multifamily would not be exclusive to the apartment project.
And if it's going to be active, what might that actually be?
So we are by no means at the point of programming what an active space is. And we would, if we were to build a 2.82 acre active space, we would do it in concert with the town. And we would make sure that we were doing things that were wanted and needed, not things that we thought were a good idea if it's a public space.
And I guess in this question, maybe more for staff, if we approve the special development, which would be required to do any of this tonight, if down the road, let's say if Macy's said, well, we're done in Bel Air, as they've said in a number of other places, and we're withdrawing when their lease expires from the store and the furniture store, would we have any teeth, having already approved the special development, to say, well, we really don't want another couple hundred apartment units there? Would we still have latitude with that, or what happens?
Oh, yeah, if something came in to replace the Macy's store with any other use, they would have to be back in front of you. Is that what you're asking?
Well, but we've already, if we went ahead with this proposal that's in front of us tonight, we would have already approved a special development mixed-use occupancy. Would we then have the teeth to say, well, we really don't want another couple hundred apartment units there?
Each time that the mixed-use center is revised, it comes back in front of you.
Okay.
Well, let's ask this question. How much square feet of retail do you need to maintain for mixed use?
For the mixed use right now, you have to have, to meet the definition, you have to have 10,000 square feet of commercial, because this is obviously a lot more than that. But I mean, that could be your judgment
But
based on
a
what
33 acre parcel, 10,000 square feet's nothing.
it's nothing. What you would have to do is, and you could make that part of your approval tonight, is to maintain a certain percentage of that commercial space, so that this thing doesn't end up to be all apartments
No.
and no, or very
Well,
little commercial.
Let me ask you this, the next question also that I just thought about here is, you know, the vacant grocery store belongs to another company. It doesn't belong to the mall fix, because they sold the property.
Right.
So how does that get incorporated into the mixed use for the mall property?
One of the requirements of a mixed-use approval is that they have to enter into an agreement amongst all of the property owners of the development, which would be reviewed by Ms. Thompson. And that means anytime there's a zoning violation, anytime there's a change,
Everybody.
all of them.
I understand, that's what we did with
Did
the
that with
with Chili's.
Taco
and
Bell.
all-
Taco
Taco
Bell.
Bell and all
Yeah.
that. My question is not so much that, but from a property standpoint, that's a separate property now. It's not part of the mall.
For the purposes of the special development, the mixed-use center, it is.
Okay. So is there anything in the code currently saying that 10,000 square feet is all you need for mixed use? Is that-
Yes.
That's in the code right now?
That's in the code. Now, again, this is something that you have control over. If they came back in and wanted to put 400 apartments, you would have
Well-
control as to whether that could happen.
But theoretically, as long as they have, in other words, if, again, we saw where the new retail establishments are in the park setting. We saw last month that was going to be apartments. Now it's not, and it definitely looks a lot more inviting than all apartments. But assuming that 10,000 square feet is all you need, any one of those buildings up there will get you that.
Right. Now,
So,
but your approval tonight could, if you desired to, establish what the percentage of commercial needs to be for this development going forward. At
So-
least a minimum amount. Not enough to handcuff them,
no,
but
I'm
enough
not,
to.
I'm not looking, truly, I'm not looking to handcuff them. Before, last month I would not have voted for the plan. This month, based on phase two's potential, it is more inviting and more enticing than it was last month. But assuming that the remainder of the mall provides the retail space for a mixed-use setting. And when I say the remainder of the mall, I'm talking about the avenue where Five Guys is, where Macy's is. Because, let's face it, Macy's could move out, and you could put 4 or 5 stores within the Macy's building as a mini mall. The same thing with the furniture store, which was the old auto store for Montgomery Ward. So,
But we would have control over whatever might be next at the Macy's store.
That's correct.
how do we codify the something greater than 10,000 square feet? We just say it tonight and it becomes,
You have it as, and I'll defer to Ms. Thompson, but I think you can have it as a condition of approval.
Yeah, absolutely. You can have it as a condition of approval.
If you say you want to have 30% or 40% of the mall to be commercial development at any given time, then that's what they'd have to live with, unless you decided to revise that.
That would be logically be a percentage of occupied
Well, no.
space rather
Yeah,
than
yeah.
acreage, right?
well, because
I mean,
you've got parking
yeah,
spaces.
mostly,
and all
most of
that.
the place is gonna be a parking lot, no matter what you do, so.
Yeah, I think when, just to kind of help you think about it, the enclosed mall represents a footprint of retail that is no longer achievable. There's 180 plus or minus thousand square feet of retail in the enclosed mall portion. What you see on the screen is probably 40,000 square feet of retail. And, let's say we got rid of the piece in the middle and built, a little more retail in the frontage. And what I'm talking about is, right here, the maximum retail build-out would be 65,000 square feet versus the 180,000 square feet that's existing, because the open-air retail format requires that face forward, face the entrance, and that it face parking. So just to, help you understand the magnitude of square footage as you think about it.
Again, not to belabor phase two, because it's a pipe dream at this point, but how do you get away with screening for loading docks and things along those lines?
Yeah, that would be.
More so from well, no, because then you have setback for, so that it's not visually impaired and things like that, so.
But when it's internal, there's a little bit more latitude. It's only when you're facing to the public road that it becomes more of an issue. And remember, you can also require that a certain percentage of open space be provided in the next phase. So if they've been talking about 2.2 acres, you can put that in as a condition.
Well, absent, I don't know what size Macy's is, but if the mall footprint itself, is the total mall footprint you're saying is 180,000, or just the mall?
It's
without
180,000 of retail leasable area.
Including Macy's?
No, the Macy's, I'm just trying to differentiate between the
Okay.
leasable area and the gross area. So the gross area is,
So you have 4 acres basically,
It's
or
at
4.5
least-
acres under roof, without Macy's.
it's more. So it's more like 240,000 feet, be with the corridors, et cetera.
Okay, so it's 60 or something.
And the Macy's is 140,000 square feet, just to give you the numbers.
Perfect for a skating rink.
That's good 843, 560
Or
conversion.
pickleball.
Are you in real estate? I mean, that was, I couldn't do it as quick as you did it, so good job.
Just a math thing.
It was 43, 560, good.
Okay.
Other questions?
In terms of open space, right now for Phase 1, you don't have enough and you're asking for the fee in lieu, is that correct?
That is correct.
And, which is $176,000. And down the road, I think there's a 10-year period here, where down the road to 6 years or so from now, and you develop Phase 2, and you're going to add all that open space. Is that, some of that money refundable? Or did I read that wrong, or?
I think the town would have to agree to give back fee in lieu for open space.
Okay.
It's not obligated to do so.
No, okay. But you don't meet the open space now, but if you go to Phase 2, as you have your concept plan up there, then you will have the open space, and you won't have to be concerned with that portion of it.
Of paying additional fee or.
Well, no, not of a, that you, now you have all the open space, and there's no concern about that, as there is now with a lack of open space.
When we undertake additional levels of development, we'll have to be very cognizant of the open space requirement and the demands of the town and the needs of the town, and, you know, we hear the town loud and clear. So, I mean,
Okay.
yes, we will have to pay attention to it, and yes, we will want to incorporate it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not, maybe I missed the question.
No, I just, as you go to Phase 2, it looks, on this concept, we don't have any, engineered site plan or anything to look at, but it looks like you have a lot of open space, and you won't have to be concerned about it. No, that was my, okay.
Did you take into consideration the space that's not being used? I mean, it's been brought up several times about a pickleball court, the ice skating rink, a sports complex, possibly even a very small boutique hotel or something like that. Did you take that into consideration and
So there are
possibility?
a couple different to me, they're different questions, so
Okay.
let's try to go one at a time.
All right.
But the start of the answer is the interpretation on the vacant space relative to the proposal that we're making to meet the parking code is that we need to abandon the vacant space so that we can't use it. So that's been the lead thought here, is just making sure that we can agree to that and that we understand and agree to the interpretation, which we do. So we haven't unpacked activating the vacant space with those uses, but those are uses that are very good ideas that I think we will explore as the mall continues to evolve. And by evolve, I mean unleash itself. It's very hard to keep tenants in this environment. I do think that there are continued opportunities for alternative tenants, and until the structure comes down, provided that we're meeting the code requirements for parking, we would love a pickleball court inside the mall. We think that's one of the, provided that the noise issue associated with pickleball can be attenuated, and it's a real issue that we're looking at across our portfolio, and sound attenuation is not a term that I'm making up. If anyone, I'm sure you guys hear the pickleball noises on the outdoor courts. It's a concern on the inside as it relates to retailers, but it's something that people are working on and we're thinking about. We would love to partner with the town to figure out how to put a pickleball court inside the mall. There's a lot of different, it doesn't take a lot of room to do it, and we would be very interested in doing that. A boutique hotel is a much different type of answer, because a boutique hotel requires a significant capital investment and would require us to be changing the structure and the layout of the project. A boutique hotel would be an amazing component of a redevelopment. We, again, are really showing you blocking and tackling concepts here, but a boutique hotel is definitely part of our marketing thought process, and if we can find it, we think it will be amazing for the property. Were there other uses that I can?
No, the skating rink, no, just
So,
something that would be
A skating
utilized.
rink is probably too big. That you know, to consider, you know, the amount of the columns that are inside of a mall and converting tile floor to ice, costly and big for a temporary solution. But again, if the town has a way to do it and is interested in partnering with us, we would welcome those conversations.
It's all under the general heading of trying to make the, part of the resuscitation process would be make the location a destination for people to go, whether, and I don't have any wisdom of what works best, but getting people to come there and then shop there. And you see this all around the country going on. And
We have a full-time wing of our office that's dedicated to what we call temporary leasing in the business. There's other terms for it that are even, they sound a little bit better, but what they're doing is they're figuring out new and interesting ways to activate enclosed malls that have trouble leasing space. It's a huge generator of traffic for us. It's not a huge generator of income, but we do have a lot of space under roof that can be used, that's conditioned. And we, I mean, even if you walk through the mall today, it's a little hard to tell, but there are over 40,000 square feet of temporary tenants that are operating in the mall. And they might not meet your vision of what's new and exciting or interesting, and they might not look like pickleball, but they're certainly creating a number of shopping opportunities for the residents for the holiday season. And they're there for the holidays. The mall, I think, looks a lot different during the holidays, and that is the result of a temporary leasing program that, you know, we take very seriously. And I don't know if anybody saw the Wall Street Journal this past weekend, but there was an article about zombie malls. Yeah, you know, and you know what I'll say about that, and I could go on, and we talk about it a lot in our industry and in my office, is that that's a terrible article for our industry. It's an accurate job of reporting, is what I'd say also. And what we are not is a zombie mall operator. We don't endeavor to be a zombie mall operator. We're here tonight because we don't want to be a zombie mall operator. We want to invest in the mall. We want to work with the town so that we don't have that situation. And, you know, if my preamble, which maybe I fumbled around a little bit with it, talking about the taxes, that is directly related to what happens when you have a zombie mall and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But back to the point about temporary leasing, you know, CBL is one of the first and foremost operators of malls in the country. We have a vertical platform of leasing people. We execute these deals around the country. We have national deals. We have a local team that's working on it. And, you know, they do a good job, and I do believe we would love a chance to partner with the town to improve and to take input, and maybe you all know businesses that you can send our way, or we can work together to cultivate.
Okay, thank you. And I think for the commissioners, there's the letter that was sent to you, the item number 2 was to ask you to provide a detailed proposed master plan for the center. And this is to me very general, but I don't know if anyone else feels that they would prefer something actually written as far as time frame and so forth. Any thoughts on that?
Well, for me, for just my purposes, they've given us their version of a vision. I would have liked to have seen a little more detail, but they're giving us a vision of what they see happening in the next phases, and that's not before us for approval tonight. That's ideas, and we've kicked that around, and I don't know how much more specific it could be without being into a formalized approval or disapproval.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right,
I'm
I
done.
hope to
No?
open it up to the public now. All right, we'd like public comment, and I'll begin with Rosemary King, please.
Thank you, Kevin. Hi, my name is Rosemary King Johnston, and I live at 259 Beckenham Circle, Unit 203 in Bel Air. And as you can see, I had to adjust the mic. You've done nothing to fix that, folks. Tonight, I am here speaking as a representative of the Master Board Association for the condominiums at Legacy and Overlook at Gateway. We previously provided testimony in opposition to the proposed development of multifamily dwellings on the current site of the Harford Mall, and our position remains the same. The town of Bel Air characterizes itself as senior-friendly. The senior residents of the 55 and over communities are older, often have chronic illnesses and medical conditions, and by nature are more vulnerable to the changes that are likely with the addition of population-dense multifamily housing units. Within a 2-mile radius of the town of Bel Air, if you include the 249 proposed units in this development request, there's a total of 1,013 existing and pending apartment units. And we would ask you, is there really a need for more? Approval of the Harford Mall proposal will increase the percentage of renters in the town to 40%, a rate of development that will shortly result in renters outnumbering owners and creating a strain on local resources. We reasonably can assume that these additional renters will bring approximately 500 additional cars to this area. As we spoke last time, for a 2-year period, there were 46 vehicular accidents in the areas of Bolton Street, Gateway Drive, Tollgate Road, and Route 24. Traffic on these roads is already congested. We would suggest that by the number of accidents, the existing signage and traffic lights don't appear to safely regulate either the current number of cars or the anticipated influx of an estimated 500 additional cars on these roads. These already congested roads present dangerous conditions for drivers and cyclists, as well as pedestrians attempting to walk on the sidewalk or cross the streets. We restate our concerns regarding the school enrollment for the children in these apartments. Do the elementary, middle, and high schools have the capacity to house them? Will this enrollment take them above the 100%? Will we need additional temporary trailers? What about the buses and the traffic, impact on the traffic on those roads? Tonight's presentation about the bus really only exacerbated our concerns for the buses, traffic, and safety of the students riding those buses. With Gateway Drive as the only way in and out of our community, additional traffic will negatively impact the capacity for emergency vehicles to respond to emergencies in a timely manner. Wastewater management is also a concern. Do the 3 pumping stations in the immediate vicinity of the development have the capacity to handle the wastewater for the additional housing units? Will additional capacity be needed? Will the developer and/or the renters be assessed an annual water and sewer facilities fee that averages around $300 annually and that all residents of each unit in our communities are currently required to pay? The access to the trail that runs adjacent to our community has caused an increase in trespassing, dog waste, youth on the trail, cars parking on private property, blocking entry and exit to our residents, and a significant increase in pedestrian traffic on our property. Additional residents will only compound these problems. We would ask that the commission consider recommending the placement of a police and fire EMS substation on the Harford Mall property. We border the very edge of the town and are farthest away from the current locations of these emergency services, yet we are one of the most frequent users of those services. Given the demonstrated needs of residents of senior communities and the impact of future development on their health and safety, we feel this would at least partially address some of the issues posed by the proposed development. We respectfully request that the commission deny this proposed development, and we thank you for your time and attention.
And I should mention, it's 3 minutes per individual and 6 minutes if you're representing.
I had a minute left.
You had a minute left.
I'll be back later.
Our next speaker will be Scott Agar, please.
My name is Scott Agar. I reside at 306 Plantation Lane, Bel Air, Maryland. I'm representing Tollgate Village residents. At our community's most recent meeting, I stated that, 1, we need redevelopment of the Harford Mall, and 2, we need to be seen as a part of a solution rather than just a problem. Pursuant to number 2, I'm not here to stop redevelopment of the mall, but to encourage, and you'll notice many of these terms are lifted directly from the comprehensive plan, here to encourage smart and innovative redevelopment of an economically vibrant shopping and entertainment destination that would benefit all of us. A 150-unit mixed-use residential over office retail, if done right, would be a positive step in this direction and is consistent and congruent with the comprehensive plan. Please do not approve this aberration of piecemeal development. There are so many reasons not to do so and too many alternatives that would be superior. I've provided you with a 14-page document that I will attempt to summarize at best. What is wrong with the Harford Mall apartment development proposal? A target-rich environment. 1, not consistent with the comprehensive plan regarding certain visions, goals, projected population growth, and likely residential development within 10 to 15 years. It is also not 150 residential units over retail and office. 2, question whether mixed-use center performance standards have been complied with. 3, a regulation change, process and timing of the mixed-use definition in the code. And 4, traffic impact study, defects and issues. Stating that it's not consistent, I would cite visions: 1, public participation; 2, community design, most namely, and it's hard to get past, quote, small town atmosphere. What we see today seems to be something that would represent Towson North Campus. Also cite 3, transportation; 4, housing; and 5, stewardship. How has the developer collaborated with residents? As far as goals, small town atmosphere. Again, hard to get past this. 2, the development process. There's no community outreach by the developer, and this is alienating
3
community.
minutes.
Mixed-use center performance standards. They have an internal circulation system that will be designed to minimize through traffic and traffic conflicts. In the traffic study, page 25, it indicates Tollgate Road and West Mall access southbound approach, background and future level of service of F for both. The explanation on the same page was due to location of the proposed apartment building and garage, the subject project would not increase the outbound peak trips at the mall access.
Excuse me, Mr. Agar, you've gone over your time, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had him at 6 because he's representing a company.
Oh, sorry.
Can I
2:43 is what I got.
can I get an extra shot clock on this? Anyway,
Sorry, 2:04, Mr. Agar.
don't I get a couple more for, anyway. Their explanation was due to the location. It simply would not increase the outbound traffic at that intersection. And by looking at that is clearly one of the proximate ways of exiting the property. Based on what? How do they know residents will not use this intersection? And again, how are the drive-through restaurant clientele going to exit the property? There's also an issue of safe pedestrian movement. Yet in the traffic impact study on pages 25 and 26, it provides current peak hours, but no accounts for background or future. It appears that they have not even estimated what the pedestrian traffic will be. As far as the regulation change, process, and timing, the definition of mixed-use center, which had it not changed, this would not be possible, was taken during the course of this process.
1 minute.
In addition to that, the developer refused to provide the commission the master plan for 6 months despite a specific request. They appear to lack respect for you, the commission. We have multiple traffic impact study defects and issues. They're missing trip rates and data plot for the mid-rise apartments. There's nothing on the drive-through feature for the
30
shops.
seconds.
Weighted average rates are used. These rates can be expected to be exceeded 50% of the time, and rates have a range of -41% and +82. There's no demonstration of key data elements in this study, such as timely, specific, credible, and verifiable from other sources. The only information that's documented has locations cited for the study of 15 locations in Florida, Kentucky, and New Jersey between 1990 and 1995. That
Time.
means when this is built, they will be 30 years old and non-specific to this location.
Now we can shut it up.
Okay. And now Vincent McHugh. Vincent McHugh. Vincent McHugh.
I'm sorry, the court reporter didn't get the speaker's name.
Vincent McHugh.
McHugh.
Yeah, I'll repeat that for you. Vince McHugh at 422 East Broadway. First, I'd like to start with regard to parking, which I know is an issue that's been a hot topic. It's the responsibility of the Planning Commission to correctly apply zoning codes as they exist with input from the public and public advisors, such as was provided by Mr. Kevin Small within his Planning Commission supplementary staff report dated November 28, 2023. Based on the zoning codes as they exist in Article 7, Section 165-51H, the Planning Commission must correctly use the gross square footage of the shopping center, quote unquote, to determine the number of required parking spaces. As Mr. Small has said in his supplementary staff report, parking interpretations may be appealed to the Bel Air Board of Appeals pursuant to Section 165-91A. It is only correct and in compliance with existing code that the Planning Commission use the gross square footage of the shopping center to determine the number of required parking spaces and place all responsibility solely upon the developer for making any appeal regarding a parking interpretation based on existing code to the Bel Air Board of Appeals. The Planning Commission should not disregard the existing zoning code in making its parking interpretation
2 minutes.
and should not put the interpretation of appeal on an incorrect parking interpretation upon the citizens of the town of Bel Air. Next comment, the revised master plan does not provide adequate information for evaluation of all 333.1 acres of the proposed development project. There are no architectural drawings or details of the retail space. What will be the dimensions and square footage of the remaining and proposed new retail spaces? What number of parking spaces will be required? What are the landscaping and open space plans and requirements for the area surrounding the remaining remaining and proposed new retail spaces? This is all conceptual. What guarantee or bond does the town have to ensure that after the multifamily residence apartment complex is approved on Lot A3, the developer will follow through with the very crude conceptual Phase 2 plan for the remaining lot of 24.45 acres and Lot 2, 4.43 acres? Wouldn't it better safeguard the interests of the town to have the larger parcels redeveloped
1 minute.
since all criteria for the development of the proposed apartment complex are based on existing structures that appear to be subject to significant change if Phase 2 is ever implemented? According to the Town Code, Article 1, Section 165-3B, the town shall provide copies of all proposed major subdivisions and large-scale developments with the town to the County Department of Planning and Zoning for oral or written comments. Has this been done, and if so, where are those comments documented in regard to the proposed Harford Mall development? If the Planning Commission accepts the fee and
30
request for
seconds.
open space based on the determination the provision of open space is impractical due to site conditions, then those site conditions must be specified and documented.
exactly what is unique about this site that makes providing open space impractical. Maximizing developer profit through minimization of open space is not a site condition that makes open space impractical.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Kokola. It's Kevin Kokola. Kikola.
Sorry, that's Kevin Kokola, like Coca-Cola. 327 Catherine Street. I guess really the other open speakers have a more detailed master plan than what was presented for this. The engineer in me wants to immediately go, what's the electrical and infrastructure impacts to this? I know there were numbers thrown out in terms of taxes that this would bring in terms of revenue. Well, where's the delta? What kind of public demand and requirement from public service is that going to put as a burden on the town? When it comes to renting, again, we're talking approaching 40% renters. Renters don't have the same equity to keep the community a small town. They don't have the same partnership with their neighbor. It's fundamentally changing the town. What they're proposing is a fundamental change. And really, one of the points that really was hitting me was it was stated multiple times that this is a concept for approval, not approval of the apartment building. What does that mean in terms of the actual approval tonight, if there is one, which it shouldn't be? Is that a notice to proceed to design, which is essentially giving a partial approval for the apartment building itself and the complex? This piecemeal design is inadequate in every sense of the word in terms of a full development of a site. You should have a master plan, timelines, and a full development of what the picture's supposed to be in terms of cost, schedule. I mean, we're talking timeline here where equipment lead times to even buy stuff for construction is longer than what they're talking about building. So there's no true planning here in terms of a master plan and really the impact to the town. And that's basically all I got.
Thank you.
I didn't have it on. Sorry. Brenda Project. Petrick.
You okay?
Hi,
Okay.
Brenda Pedrick, 1207 Grafton Shop Road. So technically I'm outside of town where I live, but I do travel up and down Tollgate Road to go to and from. I'm a small business owner. My previous location for my business was on Baltimore Pike, the shopping center where Liberatories and Taco Bell is. One of the reasons why I moved my business was because the traffic was ridiculous, parking was ridiculous. Getting in and out of the intersection right there, when you all travel, if you're in this area, you know Baltimore Pike, you have to wait several times for a light to turn before you can even go through so many times. And then the intersections get clogged where people are trying to make turns and you're stuck and people are flipping each other off and, you know, it's not very pretty. One of the reasons I moved to my location in my new business, where is Gateway Drive, is because, oh, it's less traffic over there, it'll be easier to get in and out. And that was before I knew that this was happening. So I've been in my new location only a little while now, and I'm heartbroken that this is all coming, because this new place that I'm locked into now for a 5-year lease, you know.
2 minutes.
Depending on when this, you know, comes to fruition, I'm gonna be probably regretting my move. My big concern, and one of the things I wanted to hear more from the developer, was about traffic. You know, keeping that light, getting rid of the light, yeah, you need to keep the light. And in addition to that, there needs to be more infrastructure put in place, because even though the mall has lost business, maybe leading up to COVID, COVID obviously put a hit on the traffic that goes in and out of that area. In the last 4 years since COVID, you've still had a lot more growth in Bel Air. So a lot more traffic is already coming anyway. And if you think about adding 250 more apartments, 500 cars, not to mention guests coming in and out from those people, I shudder to think of what the traffic's gonna be like. The second concern for me, also as a mom, I have a 9-year-old son, and last year he had 30 kids in his class in 4th grade. I'm sorry, 3rd grade. This year he's in 4th grade. There's 29 kids in his class. So if every school is at capacity and there's no money to build schools
1 minute.
What are we doing to our kids? What are we doing to the school system? What are we doing to the teachers? It's taking a hit on everyone. The other topic I'd like to talk on is the fact that we're closing a hospital in Havre de Grace. So again, we're bringing more people to this area, but we're taking away resources to help them medically. I'm a lifelong, actually, Harford County resident since 1976, and it breaks my heart to see that Bel Air, the Bel Air that I remember, is becoming, like everyone has said tonight, a Towson.
30
And
seconds.
I didn't choose to live in Towson, and it breaks my heart that one day I'm going to leave this area because I hate what it's becoming. Thank you.
Jim Hines. Jim Hines.
How y'all doing? Jim Hines. I live at 4 North Atwood, Harrod Park. I've lived here in Bel Air for 40-some years. I've been in Harford County 50-some years. I love Bel Air. I love Harford County. I retired from Harford County government. I'm concerned about turning this into what the young lady just said, Towson. It's becoming Towson more and more every year. It's getting overcrowded. Traffic is awful. Harrod Park is a good example of bad traffic. Any time you want to come there during the day, come on over and sit in front of my house. I've invited Bel Air Police many times over the years to sit there. They used to do radar there all the time. Everybody runs the stop signs. It's a shortcut. This is going to create more hectic traffic going through Harrod Park. I love the concept. It's beautiful, but concepts, that's a dream right there. That don't mean nothing. It's not a plan. It's not concrete. And I just hope
2
y'all
minutes.
think about that. My neighbors, we've all talked. I don't know if some of them are in here. Yeah, there we go. I know we share the same. He probably has more details to back up. I don't have much more to say because most of the speakers prior to me, the First Lady was pointing on everything I would have loved to said. But I just hate to turn this into Towson. Thank you.
Thank you. For them to know that Towson is not a municipality. All of Baltimore City, there's no, Baltimore County. Yeah, just so you understand too, Bel Air versus Towson that you keep referring to. Towson is not a municipality. There's no ruling body like there is here to attempt to help. Pardon? Exactly, but you can't compare Bel Air to Towson. No, you can't. The next speaker is Rick Travilla, Travilla.
Travilla? Okay.
Rick Travilla, 316 Plantation Lane, Bel Air. I have 3 major issues with the proposal: traffic, schools, and the master plan. I'll start with traffic. Mr. Agar has done a tremendous amount of work in that area, and there was one point that he didn't get to make, so I'll make it for him. The comparison of census data commuter time of departure versus traffic study exiting indicated the census basis was 83% higher between 7 and 8 a.m. and 49% higher in the next hour. The census basis does not include trips other than commuting. Common sense tells me that
2 minutes.
we're going to take a disaster that we have already in traffic and make it something much worse. School capacity. At the last meeting on November the 2nd, we heard from the Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts tell us everything is overcrowded. They're in trailers. They have issues. They got over 30 people in their classes. If your rules tell you that you have to use a study that doesn't mirror the truth, you need to change your rules. you need to change the report you're looking at. The last thing is the master plan. You asked for a master plan, and you didn't get one. That's not a master plan. There's a development down in Greenbelt, similar situation.
One
They had
minute.
a master plan with 6 phases to it. Each phase had to be approved individually as it approached, but they had a master plan completely of what's going to be where. This is certainly not that. That's all I have to say, other than I would ask that you not approve this project. Thank you.
Any other members wish to speak? Yes, please. Citizens.
I get distracted easily, so I'll ask for just a 30-second warning.
I'll give you 1 and 2 and 30.
Okay, those are the rules. Sean Campbell, 8 North Atwood Road. First, I'd like to state that I don't think Bel Air is anti-development. I think we've heard that in the room tonight. I live in Howard Park. It's a development. I love my neighbors and love the town that I live in. However, there was a plan when Howard Park was put in place, and it's cultivated a great community to live in. And I know that's true of all the other developments in Bel Air as well. So I question the soundness of moving forward with this building, given that there's 4 proposals set to be voted on by the town commissioners that would make a lot of this out of compliance with the code. So I know you guys have a job to do, and that's based on the code you have in front of you tonight. But it's a deep consideration, given that they didn't give you a master plan, they give you a conceptual plan.
2 minutes.
The developer is arguing to continue fee in lieu. They're doing nothing more than continuing that same hard space by paying to mitigate those costs. We're getting a bike lane, more hard space. Sure, there's a couple trees, a couple green space. I work in the environmental field. I'll tell you, there's nothing like a nice green field. Those interior fields there will be lacking in sunlight, be inaccessible by the public, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't get sold anything on the doorstep. That park doesn't exist. They can say they're going to put it in there, but that's all it is empty words until it's on paper. They say they draw from the inspiration of the town. They must only be looking at the banks, Popeyes, and Taco Bells. Instead of choosing to design a more modern building that honors our main street. The town citizens are left with large gray walls, although they're slightly off-white now, looming over their commute and walks.
1 minute.
On a personal level, I'd like for everyone to take some time to look at the town comprehensive plan, as Howard Park continues to be assaulted by developers and planners looking to establish large apartment complexes on every vacant lot around our neighborhood, including Chicken Alley coming down the street. If these developments were truly pursuing the visual appeal of our town, they would be looking at smaller buildings if they must be mixed use, and also single-family homes on quarter acres to 8-acre lots. I'm asking the commission today to delay this vote, to honor the votes of the
30
people
seconds.
and the proposals put forward by the town commissioners they elected until those proposals can be voted on, and until the developer can present a comprehensive plan for the development, which you asked them to do and they have yet to do. Thank you.
All right, this is now, we're closing the public hearing and your comments, so thank you.
I'm going to make one clarification. If the ordinances that are currently proposed are passed in whatever form, this project to be vested and to be to not have to adhere to those would have to be under construction. So whether or not that happens in a month from now or 2 months from now, that this project, there would be, you know, they would have to come back in front of you if there were issues that those ordinances presented, such as fee in lieu. just so you're aware.
So I need some feedback. Yes.
I've got no problem with fee in lieu. We've done fee in lieu for a lot of projects in town because certain stuff doesn't happen, but that doesn't mean that fee in lieu is a bad moniker to have. So fee in lieu doesn't bother me, because the reason why we have fee in lieu is because if you did, you would have no development because stuff has to happen. Although, I'll wait for Phil to get back.
Happens when you have too many aging members.
Hey, well, you know, what happens. But I will throw this out there, but I would move that we table this proposal only for the reason that I don't want a napkin or cocktail napkin, the square footage for the amount of retail space that needs to happen. Because if it were me, I would say based on 33 acres, I would want at least 50%, and I don't know that that's doable, whether that's too much, not enough. But I don't want to hamstring the developer, but at the same time, I don't want to make an off-cuff calculation that will bind us negatively or positively until we do the math. So that's my proposal.
Phil, do you have a comment? Do you have a thought that you'd like to express?
No, I mean, that's
No.
my motion.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You know, that's,
You can have more discussion if you want to, but that's.
The applicant would agree to the 50%.
I don't know that may be good, but I don't know that that's the right number. So I would like to look at that.
If that is the number, we would agree.
okay. So,
The public hearing is closed. Go ahead.
okay, so you just presented a motion to
Correct.
table this. Do I have a second for that? Then do I have another motion to be put forward? There's no other motion? You don't want to table this, and you do not want to make a decision? Thinking.
I have no problem making a decision. My problem is I don't want to make a decision on the back of a cocktail napkin, basically, at
Well, can I
I'm sorry,
make
but
it-
please, could you
can
keep your
please stop?
comments
Thank you.
quietly?
Can I
So,
make
I
the
mean-
suggestion to the members that
Yeah.
you might want to consider tabling the decision so that you can write a written opinion? I know it's the past practice of the board to do a verbal motion, and I had some legalese for you, for the record. But there's been a lot of things said by the applicant. There's been 2 hearings, a lot of written commentary from the public. There's been a lot of public input, a lot of public interest. So it might behoove you to really think about everything that you've seen and address it in writing and issue a written opinion. You have the entire right to do that under your rules and under the code. It's just a suggestion for you.
That's the advice of counsel?
That would actually be my advice,
Is
given
that,
the heated nature of these proceedings.
Is that a tabling or a continuance?
It would be a tabling because there is no further comment or anything that is going to be received by the board. So basically, you would table it, and instruct me and the Director of Planning to draft a written opinion consistent with your continued deliberations, which would be provided to you for final blessing.
Well, in that context, I'd be happy to second Mr. Coates's motion to table.
So Keith? Keith? Pardon?
No.
Peter?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Okay, is there any other continued deliberations?
Yes,
don't have
because we
much to
kind of
go
need to
on.
know where you're going.
I mean, I think we need to get together and have another meeting of some sort to look at, the project's 33 acres. Macy's sits under 3 acres. I just did some rough math. The place out front, I think's probably close to about an acre and a half. I forget what the grocery store is, but that's another acre. So you've got Macy's at 140, so that's 3.6, 3.7. Say, so you got 4.7, maybe 5.7. I don't know what the little grocery store is, or what Macy's is. Furniture in the back is, but just say that that's 0.3. So you're.
Yeah, those are numbers that we would have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I
provide.
mean, I'm just guessing. I'm just, I'm guessing at what the numbers are to make sure that this maintains this. I do kind of agree with some of the folks here that phase 2 is only speculation at this point. It's not it's not something that's dyed in the wool. You have 2 buildings. I could see putting 3 buildings there and still probably getting the same thing. The same thing along with, from the standpoint of access from the public to utilize it. I mean, those things have to be figured out, and I think we need to look at that in the complete project. Now, assuming this is a 6-year project by 2030, where the mall could be emptied and phase 2 could actually happen, I just think we need to have something better in writing and in a meeting of the minds between us and the developer of where it's going to ultimately be. I'm not saying that I'm not going to vote for it. It's a lot better than what it was last month, but it needs to be, I think we need to figure out where it's going.
Okay.
I would just say, while everybody's here, and I know you're all opposed to it, I heard, I'd be ready to support the project. There's clearly things that, details that need to be worked out. I think this is the best solution for the site. I don't want it to become a zombie mall, and it's headed that way right now. That's established by the tax records. But council has advised us to postpone, to table for another month, and that's why I'm supporting Mr. Coates's motion. But otherwise, I think this is the best solution that we've seen to this project. And I didn't want to hide from that while we had an audience full of people here. I hate to see you have to keep coming out, but that's my opinion based on the comprehensive plan and the development regulations as they now stand. That could change.
And also, just so you know, this isn't the first time that a developer has come to us with a plan and said, okay, this is what we envision, and we make it contingent upon that vision. And I would have no problem making it contingent upon that vision, but I don't know what those numbers are tonight, and I'm not ready to vote on that without more hard and fast numbers that I think we need to have. That's all.
It's not unusual for these things to take some time, and this is obviously a very big project, so 2 and now headed for 3 meetings is not particularly out of the ordinary. We had at least that many to approve a rebuild of a Taco Bell. It just didn't create a lot of attention, that's all. Only from the folks that were redoing it over at, by the Chili's there. So that's my own opinion based on everybody's input and the proposal of the developer. And, you know, if we'd had a motion to support, I probably would have voted for tonight, but the council's recommended that we wait. And I have no idea what the other four folks will do when the time comes and there's an actual motion in front of you. But I didn't want to go home tonight without expressing that I have a general inclination to support the project.
Well, can I ask a couple questions as to the specific criteria, just to get kind of your thought process? So with respect to section 16553 and special development for the mixed use, do you guys have any feeling one way or another as to whether or not the applicant met its burden for impracticality for fee in lieu?
I don't have a problem with the special development for the mixed use. It's just that where the special development for the mixed use, it comes into play, my understanding was we would have to figure out the square footage for the mixed use. So I'm not ready to vote on that tonight without figuring out where that square footage, what that square footage number is.
Okay.
Clearly, 10,000 square feet is not enough for a project like this size.
Okay, but I'm sorry, and I kind of missaid that. But, so that's what the mixed use center is your concern, is the 10,000 square feet
Yeah,
for the special development. I'm sorry, I meant impracticality for the fee in lieu criteria.
As I said before, I have no problem with fee and lieu because fee and lieu happens, this isn't the only time fee and lieu comes up, so that doesn't bother.
Are you finding that they've met their burden?
Correct, and what factors do you believe that they've presented support in-practicality?
Well, from a fee and lieu standpoint, they're building a project that they can't meet their criteria for the fee, for the open space, so in order to have the project go forward, they have to have fee and lieu.
So,
There's no more people.
so is there input from anybody else here?
You know, I go back to the request where we specifically asked for a detailed proposed master plan. And I still would like to see that. I must personally say that it's too important for the mall for this transition to fail. So I am in favor of making these adjustments, whatever needs to be done to make this a feasible
So you're not
project.
ready to make a decision tonight? Or you want more information from the applicant?
Right. What I'm looking for is what information do you need from staff in order to do that? Is there a inclination to require a certain percentage of open space, such as what they've shown here when they keep going back to 2.2 acres? That can be a condition of your approval.
Yeah.
But that condition of approval would apply to the next phase because they're not
Well,
providing it now.
the next phase may not happen.
And it may not happen.
I mean,
You're
let's
right.
face it, God forbid, nothing, the economy goes gangbusters. Everybody stops Amazon going to Amazon, they want to go back to the mall. And the mall has revitalization, that's not going to happen.
Right. No,
I
I'm throwing
get
stuff
that.
out to get conversations started
Yeah.
here, so I want to make sure
No,
that
I
I
get
have
that.
something to go
And,
on.
candidly, that would, for their vantage point, they would probably like that too, but that's not happening. Or it doesn't appear to be happening now. And again, we're looking 6 years into the future, possibly for phase 2, before we may even see that as a possibility.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I just want to say that to the applicant, the reason we're being so particular and sticky about this isn't Baltimore City. It's Bel Air, and we don't have, this is a pretty big project for the town, and we want to make sure that, when it moves forward, it's going to be, that we didn't make any mistakes. So as I understand it, council and Kevin are going to get together and give us an outline, or you're gonna give us a motion, or you're gonna give us notes, or?
We would give you adjusted conditions based on your deliberations tonight, from the staff report, and so far what I've heard
Okay,
is.
so let's do it this way. Assuming 50% is the number, I would like to see 50%, 45%, 40%, down to 35% as from a square footage standpoint. What would the center entail if those numbers existed? In other words,
What would it look like? You want them to give you revised drawings?
well, I'm just saying, I don't know what the total square footage is up there. I'm just guessing at it right now based on numbers and division. All right? So they may meet 50% right now. I don't know that. I don't think they do, but my point being is, if we're going to look at a park acreage of 2.6 to 3 acres, and the rest of the mall as for stores at 50%, 40%, or 45. I mean, to go down, I want to see what it looks like. In other words,
So you're requesting that they submit adjusted master plan?
well, in some aspects.
Because the reason I'm asking that is
okay.
because that opens back up the public hearing.
Correct.
Well, this is an idea. This is an idea, all right? This is a conceptual idea that may or may not happen,
Right.
all right? I mean, this is just an idea, and it's a nice idea. Don't get me wrong. I have no problem with it. But I have a problem with the square footage at 10,000 square feet to be a multi-use
Yeah,
property.
Don't get
So-
hung up on the definition of mixed use. That is just a
mixed use.
minimum, because the reason the mixed use was at 10,000 is because we've got a ton of mixed use along Main Street.
Right,
So-
that's small acreage.
Right.
I understand that. So, but my point being is, if they came in, had a 10,000 square foot Burger King here, all right, and got rid of everything else, they could have the rest apartments. I don't want to see that.
You would
So-
have control over that.
I
That's what-
understand that, but I want to conceptually see what this is going to look like.
Okay.
All right, that.
Okay, so if you want more information from the applicant, we have to be very careful on how we do this, okay? If you want more information from the applicant, that's totally fine. But he would have a deadline to respond. You'd have to open it up again for public hearing for the comments of the public to be able to review what they said. We can't have, hey, give us another, drawing, and then nobody gets to see it. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, I'm confused about something here, Don. I thought your concern about this was in a what-if scenario, if Macy's went away, if their whole Phase 2 development turned out to be something radically different than what they put up right now. Does any of this have anything to do with the application that's in front of us right now?
Yeah, the 10,000 square feet.
Is there any question that if you made the requirement 100,000 square feet or 50% of the development, that they wouldn't qualify at this point? You're talking about what-ifs in the future, and that's something that we don't need these people to address. That's something that staff can look at, can check what other municipalities or areas of the country, how they deal with it, and come back to us with some recommendations as to how we would change the ordinance. But it's got nothing to do with this application. We're holding these people up. These people are feeling like they're held hostage by us at this point.
I'm not trying to hold them hostage.
But that's what you're doing.
Well, no, I don't think so, because, well, the plan as it was last month is radically different than the plan this month. All right? And the plan this month is a lot more appealing to me than the plan last month. But again, I hearken back to the 10,000 square feet, that this plan as it exists, let's back up. Phase 2 doesn't exist. This is a pipe dream. That could happen 6 years from now.
Or not.
Or not. That could just as easily be the mall 6 years from now.
Right.
So I have a problem, though, with the fact that as current things exist, 10,000 square feet is the number. And I don't want that to be the number for this project.
You are not bound by that number.
What,
If there is a phase two, the planning commission,
Oh.
as it's then constituted, can make whatever demands they want on that phase. That's the way that would be.
you could almost put whatever number or percentage you want with regard to this application, and it would qualify. That's my point.
You can make that a condition of your approval
Well,
of
I
this
mean,
one if you want, but
Again.
I don't
had-
see the wisdom of us failing to act again tonight over something that is not even part of the submission and then dragging people back in here. It might actually be cold and snowing by January. And they've come twice and they've come twice. They've come from the town, they've come from Harford County, and that we've heard them. And I hate to see them dragged back in here again because the testimony is important to them and I respect it, but it's not necessarily germane to this consideration of what's in front of us.
I still just don't want to do it on the back of a cocktail napkin with the
It's fine.
numbers. I'm sorry.
I haven't even gotten a cocktail yet.
I have no idea what you mean by that.
I'm looking at the project, all right, 33 acres. So half of that, if I said 50%, then 15 acres either needs to be considered retail.
And I bet they would meet it, given the way
Well,
that
well, he just said that they would, and I have no problem with that, but I want to make sure that that's a good number. That it's not something that we're just looking at, and I'm saying, I'm picking a number out of the air and everybody's happy with it, and it comes back and either bites us in the butt or it doesn't.
But the point is, no matter what number you pick out of the air, or what number you finally decide on after deliberation for 3 months, they're going to meet it for this project. It's the next project that you have to worry about, and that's the number that staff can come up with and make suggestions and give us pros and cons as to what we should be looking at in trying to arrive at a final figure. In the meantime, these people keep coming back here and we keep giving them vague, oh, well, I don't like this, I don't like that, I want to know this, I want to know that. And it's got nothing to do with the project.
One of the things you can do if you want is to say residential stops at 249, if you want. And then that would be what they'd have to operate under. You can also say that open space has to be provided at the required 3.5 or the 2.2 they're showing here. You can also do that. But for town council and myself to be able to provide you with a written opinion, we need to just know what, we need to take that temperature of the commission as to what you want.
Or if you do want more information, if you want more information and the board wants to continue it, we're not doing anything with this project, you know.
I'm
so-
opposed to asking for more information that results in still more testimony. And I would be, to me, one of the concerns I would have had, and Kevin just addressed it, is if you cap the, at 249, that keeps it, one of the concerns I had was, well, what if down the road, if retail just fails completely and nobody shops anywhere, they all just buy stuff online like they're increasingly doing, then do we want that to just become a field of apartments over there? And I would say, no, we don't. If it's all but 10,000 square feet, we need more than that, but it doesn't need to be delineated for purposes of this application, and if we want to cap it at 249, I'm on board with that.
Now, if we do cap it at 249, and they come and, let's say, all retail does go away. If they came back again at some point and wanted another apartment building, townhouses, condominiums, or whatever, would they have that opportunity?
At that point, you would be able to revise your, the opinion and go above that if you so wished. But this is basically giving giving the applicant an indication of what they're going to be allowed to do. And typically, the town or the planning commission in the past has been very reticent to revise previous conditions of approval. I'm not sure I've ever seen it. So that's something that they would have to understand, and they would have to come up with appropriate alternative measures, alternative proposals, sorry.
And that'd be up to whoever's serving on this panel
Yeah.
at that time. You know,
It'll be
that's,
long gone.
you know, that's down the road. We're talking 2030. Well, I won't be here, I promise you, so.
Now, one of the things that has not been discussed is the architecture. Are you okay with the architecture? Are you not okay? Is it still?
I think the new submission is much more pleasant and acceptable for the area. What are other thoughts, other comments?
I agree with you, Lois. I think they have, sorry, Pete. I think they have tried to blend it in with the other storefronts in the area. I think it looks much better.
I think Paul agreed.
Not that you guys have your discussion, but I have to put something on the record for you. I'm required to just remind you that the town's architect is a consultant or advisor. His findings are just a recommendation which you may choose to adopt or not based on the subjective criteria in the code, such as whether the architecture incorporates materials and facade design that is in harmony with the character of the neighborhood. The Planning Commission is the subjective determiner of what the town of Bel Air looks like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a photo of that you could put on to give the
Can you
citizens
that?
an opportunity to see what the changes? What?
We do.
Yes,
It's here
eventually.
somewhere.
I can hold it up if not.
I think they've seen it. It's popped up a few times.
Did it?
There you go.
Okay. That looks much lighter and airier and blends more readily. All right, so
So what you've got is you have the architecture, you have the master plan, and yeah, those were the two main items, and then there was all the consultant comments that have already been provided.
could we please ask for quiet while we're
So-
discussing this? Or please go outside with your comments, and then you can come back in. Thank you.
So, and again, I've heard from a couple on open space, on the fee in lieu. I just need to make sure, between Liz and I, that, either the majority of the board, we're trying to be able to fashion something that is going to be something that you can approve.
So based on the arguments I heard, it seems that the applicant is advancing the position that because of the fact that he has multiple long-term leases on a substantial portion of the property, that is serving as his impracticality for not being able to provide the open space and as sort of the determining factor as to why he's entitled to fee in lieu. So, it's up to you as to whether or not you believe that is a fact that you accept, or if you don't, or you can say, no, I think the site conditions don't make this impractical. Whatever you guys decide to do, we just kind of need to get an idea.
But as I understood it, we could, accept a fee in lieu now, and when the second phase comes in, if they do this community park or whatever, then there's a possibility that that money could be used towards that fee in lieu that was paid.
Right.
And if not, you know, there are so many wonderful things that have been done in this town with using the fee in lieu as well.
The fee in lieu is something that the town has no obligation to return.
Okay.
So it's future years is future years.
From a criteria standing, as far as an articulation argument that the courts look to, if anyone challenges it, they're going to say your criteria under fee in lieu is that they had to show that it was impractical for them to provide open space. Now, impractical is not defined under the code, so you give it kind of a common use. You know, what's impractical about the site.
So, but basically what you're saying, in order for us to accept that as you're telling us the definition, then theoretically, we would need to look at all the leases that they have to make sure that the time period that they're saying, because we don't know, but I'm assuming that they're telling us the proper thing, that they've got leases that are going to 24, 25, 26, maybe 27, that theoretically, we would need to look at all those leases in order to verify that.
I mean, if you want to take the applicants.
I don't particularly need to see that, because again, I have no problem with fee in lieu. We do fee in lieu. Fee in lieu does not bother me.
I understand.
So,
But that's what I've heard them advance as their argument here tonight, is that they believe that they have satisfied, conceptually, you're the determiners. Did they satisfy that criteria and show that it is impractical for them to provide open space in some way, and that makes it easier for you to say, okay, you're going to pay the fee in lieu, because there has to be some finding by you. If there is none, and you say, we've done fee in lieu before, I like fee in lieu, you know, I'm just going to make it easy, and I'm just going to give them fee in lieu, and someone challenges that, and you don't tell us what is impractical about their submission, about their site, it's not going to survive.
and sadly, based on what you're saying, is we need to see a copy of all the leases that show the time period.
Well, you can accept their word for it to say that there's a lease on there, and you know the Macy's is there. We all live there, you know. There's certain things that are there that we all know that are there, going to be there for a while.
Right, but my point is that the fee in lieu is based on a time period. So we would at least need to say, okay, well, Macy's is here till 2027, and I don't know, whatever pizza place is there, they're only there till 2025. I mean, so that you go through to see that they can't legally, or can't, not say legally, but they can't effectively get out of the current leases that they have with their tenants.
But that's the question. Do you think that leases make it impractical
Right.
for
I
them?
think it does.
Okay, that's the question. So if you're willing to accept that they say, yeah, leases are on the property, right, and that simple fact makes it impractical, then you're good. That's a
Okay.
fact,
But
you know.
I agree with that.
Okay.
That it's a fact, that lease makes it impractical for them to
Okay.
come up with that.
How does everybody?
I'm just taking it to the next step, that theoretically, you would need to know, in other words, if 90% of their people left in 2024, all right?
Mhm.
And they have 2 stragglers that won't be out until 2027, I don't know that the leases are effective, because by the time they start this project, you know, theoretically, they could fix some of the open space aspect of things.
Well, again, you can ask for more detailed information from the applicant and open it back up.
And then we'll open it back up.
Exactly. So how does everybody else feel? Do they feel that's impractical?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
I think they've made their case.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And we're talking about parking lots. We're not talking about erasing a forest to create parking lots.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, do you want to do the motion, or shall I ask for?
Into the microphone.
do you, Phil, would you like to present the motion?
We already
I
voted.
think you've done it.
Okay. we've
Unless-
done-
unless they-
It's been
somebody
tabled
wants to-
4-1.
Was there a second? Did
Yep,
get
we
that far?
voted,
Okay.
Lois. You ran the vote.
All right.
It was
and-
4-1.
Okay, so, that's it. Okay.
All right.
That's it.
I missed it too. It's okay.
Oh, good, thank you.
That was after council recommended that we table. And I concurred with what she said, so I seconded, and then we voted.
Okay. On to the next.
All right. All right, Kevin, or, no, Liz, would you please read into the record the town article on amendments, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Section 16519 provides in pertinent part, the Planning Commission is charged with the following powers and duties. Subsection F, receive comments at a public hearing to recommend the boundaries of the various zoning districts and appropriate regulations to the Board of Town Commissioners to be enforced thereon. G, advise the Board of Town Commissioners on changes in zoning, annexations, and development regulations. Subsection 16599 provides the purposes for amendments. It says this article provides for the periodic amendment and repeal of the zoning regulations in accordance with the land use article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. It is intended to provide an outline of procedures necessary to effect changes to regulations and to meet the changing development requirements of the town and its citizens. Subsection 165-100 provides the authorization and the Planning Commission's recommendations. The Board of Town Commissioners may, by ordinance, amend, supplement, or change the regulations, district boundaries, or classifications of the property now or hereinafter established by the Town of Bel Air development regulations or amendments thereof. Initiation of such amendment, supplement, or change is by resolution of the Board of Town Commissioners, motion of the Planning Commission, or by petition of any property owner. Petitions shall be addressed to the Board of Town Commissioners. The Board of Town Commissioners may also designate a property, site, or group of properties as historic based on the Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation. Subsection B provides any proposed amendment, supplement, or change to the Town of Bel Air development regulations text, district boundaries, or classification of property originating with or received by the Board of Town Commissioners may be referred by them to the Planning Commission for an investigation and recommendation if the Board of Town Commissioners decides to proceed with further action on the request. The Planning Commission in such cases shall cause an investigation to be made as it deems necessary. For this purpose, the Planning Commission, the members on this board, may require the submission of all pertinent data and information by any person concerned. It may hold public hearings as provided by its own rules, and it shall submit its report and recommendations to the Board of Town Commissioners within 60 days unless an extension of time is granted. Alternately, the board at its discretion may dismiss the request with no further action. Those are the processes by which the Planning Commission has the discretion to review ordinances that have been introduced by the Board of Town Commissioners. Right now, the Board of Town Commissioners has introduced ordinance number 81923, 82023, excuse me, 81823, 81923, 82023, and 82123. Those matters have been referred to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation. Based on our information and understanding, the Board of Town Commissioners has scheduled a public hearing on these ordinances on December the 11th, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Now, my understanding correctly, Council, that the town board may refer it to the Planning Commission, which they are now doing?
It has done that.
They have done that. That's why
Correct.
it's in front of us tonight.
Correct, because they want to move forward with those ordinances.
And then we can have a public hearing about it?
You can. The
Separate
discretion
from
is
their
yours.
public hearing? about it?
Correct.
Okay.
Kevin, if you would please go forward.
Ordinance 81823. This concerns Section 165-21, the annual growth report adequacy standards. And I'm going to paraphrase this. Currently, the town of Bel Air, when they look at a development site, and they are required to look at schools because there may be a residential component, then the school enrollment of that, or what you just have in your package, which is the annual growth report, you would be bound by that annual growth report regarding the school capacity of elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And when you do that, you would be, the current code allows you to go, it has to be over 110%, and all abutting school districts have to be over 110%. The change would be to lower that to 100% and not count the abutting school districts. It would only be the school district that the development is within. So to give you an example would be Red Pump Road is 102%. The project at the Harford Mall would not be eligible to move forward at 102%. And it would never have even made it in front of you because it's the Red Pump Road's over capacity according to the new adjusted.
But under the current guideline, current ordinance, let's just say in this same example, if Red Pump was 98, but all the rest of the elementary schools in the area were 120, then.
With the change, it wouldn't matter. It only matter.
But in the current,
under the current,
then we could, that could not be
you could still
submitted.
go forward because it's 98.
I thought you said that.
It would have to be over 110% under the current code.
But you mentioned in the current code that adjacent schools also factored into
In
this.
addition to.
Phil, that was my confusion too. It's all of them have to be over.
Okay, got
the
it. Okay,
percentage.
thank you.
So you want me to go to the next one? You want me to do all of them, or do you want to?
So,
Well, I think there's some way to Red Pump Elementary, or Bel Air High School, or Bel Air Middle, or Homestead Wakefield, to see how many town students actually attend these schools as opposed to the folks in the county. For instance, Homestead Wakefield, I don't think there are too many students from the town of Bel Air. They're mostly from out in the county, so the town gets kind of penalized in terms of having to, this 110% capacity when we don't really, the town doesn't really contribute to
I
that.
asked for those numbers,
Yeah.
and Harford County Public Schools doesn't
They don't
carry
keep
that
that. No,
calculation.
it's,
They wouldn't.
we had the demographics, I think it would show that.
Maybe.
So it's, the town, like I say, we have our ordinance and we get penalized because of the growth in the county.
Homestead
Well-
Wakefield, I one time went to took in all of Cedar Day. I said Homestead Wakefield at one time, I know, took in all of Cedar Day, which actually goes past Ring Factory, which doesn't make any sense, but they went to Homestead Wakefield. And that's strictly county. And all the way out to Wheel Road was.
Can you hear? Is your microphone
Yeah.
on?
And all the way out to Wheel Road, which isn't in the county.
Right.
Went to Homestead Wakefield, down McPhail and all that.
Right.
Yeah, Homestead Wakefield goes all the way down to Wheel Road and includes Cedar Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pete's right, that there's a lot of quote-unquote county kids that are going to schools that are in town. I mean, I think in an ideal world, 100% is nice, but, I mean, that's why they have modulars. I mean, I know it sucks, but guess what? That's
Well-
part of the things that happen.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, 110, I don't think is necessarily a bad number.
I think good discussion. I don't think we need to rush into a decision tonight about whether 110 is the magic number, or 100's the magic number. I would say that on this particular issue, that overcrowded schools are really addressable by the Board of Education by moving boundary lines.
One
But
of the things-
that's in their discretion, things to do, not ours, but to the extent that that can be done, then that reduces, unless you have a overall countywide overcrowding of schools as measured by their reports, then that's how that can also be addressed, rather than saying, well, we can't do anything in town over it. But I think as a general guide, these are serious ordinances and important ones, and I respect the commissioners, and they'll have the final say on what gets done with these. But I would encourage us to kind of kick them around, but not with the idea of deciding about any of them tonight. I give them that respect for,
Absolutely.
they referred them to us, and we should hear about it and find the logic of it and how it's different than the current rationale.
I can give you a percentage of area. That would be a crude way of looking at what's in the town and what's outside the town. Like Hickory has a very, very small portion of attendance area that's in the town of Bel Air. So we can look that up for you.
Hey, Kevin, didn't you have those location or attendance maps that you got from the Board of Ed that we were going to provide to the commissioners, but they didn't?
We did.
want-
I sent them
Okay.
out, but it was quite a while ago.
Oh, okay. Maybe that might work for them. The ones that shows the shading, like
Yes.
in Bel
Yeah,
Air?
we could provide that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to pick up on Phil's comment, if I recall correctly, at some point during my terms on the Planning Commission, we actually changed these numbers to make them the same as the county's numbers. At one
It used to
point,
be
they were
115,
different.
and it was changed
Right.
down to 110.
We lowered them, in fact. And I think the reason for including the surrounding or abutting school areas is just because the Harford County Public School System periodically redraws boundary maps. So what's true for today may not be true in 2 years. So you've got to take the region as a whole, not just one school at this point in time, or even looking forward 2 or 3 years, because everything could change. And the fact right now that Homestead Wakefield is probably one of the highest in the county in terms of attendance,
I think it
you
is
gotta
the
believe
highest.
that that's gonna be addressed the next time they redistrict. I mean, my personal opinion is, I think we should stick with it the way it is now. It's coordinated with the county, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
The county does not include abutting areas, though. They would not be doing, that would be the
But I
inconsistency.
think we should, because of the point that both Pete and Phil made. We're talking about a discrete area, whereas in the county, they're not.
Just this capacity enrollment projections that I cited, it's on the website, but yeah, you're right. Youth benefit is at 1,114, and Homestead Wakefield is 1,057, and they're the only two elementary schools over 1,000, anywhere near 1,000.
Right, then when the Homestead Wakefield is rebuilt, it'll have at the time it was approved, it was a 1,099.
Didn't we have this conversation with the commissioners about once the new school for Homestead Wakefield would be built and operational,
It would be under 100%.
it would be under 100%, okay.
Assuming that those numbers all remain the same, because
Okay.
we were given a capacity that they had, and I think they have to get a final state-rated capacity once they're built.
Up and running and enrollment, okay.
Libraries become something different.
I think it's very good that we're speaking to each one of these now, just very generally. But then I would like to have the public input at the January meeting. Maybe just continue with a review and some comments. How does everyone feel about that?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in, when we do the comprehensive plan, we spend hours on
Right.
each line of these. I'm not interested in rushing to a decision. And I'd like to hear what the ordinances, proposed ordinances are about, and hear some conversation about it, and then have a public hearing
Yeah.
next month
Exactly.
and make a recommendation.
But
And this has
isn't
really
the
no
town board
bearing on.
going to have a public hearing?
I don't know what to, well, our public hearing about these ordinances. We're allowed to have one.
Oh, great, we're allowed to have one. That doesn't mean we have to have one.
Well,
No, it's discretionary. If you want to have one, it's up to you.
That'll be up
So they
to,
will be,
that'll be
the
up to the
town
others,
commissioners
yeah.
are going to have one December the 11th.
Yes, ma'am.
So we would not necessarily have to have one.
okay. We'll have the, would we have the minutes from that Board of Commissioners meeting of December 11th by the time we meet in January?
I would assume so.
Yes,
Ba-
you will.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Excellent,
She does
thank
it.
you.
Okay, well,
She
that's
does it, I have
enough
no
for me.
clue.
Here, and this is not directly pertinent, but I'm looking through, I thought, well, I wonder what the high schools look like, because I can relate, it's a smaller number of schools, and it's shocking how low the current and proposed, projected percentages are at the high school level. I don't know what happens, people drop out?
They've had several.
Or are we going, are we getting through the snake where people,
Girl Scouts
where there's a
notwithstanding.
declining population? I don't know, but, I mean, 84 is 84. There's nothing, even in the long term, nothing projected higher than Aberdeen is 89%. And that's the highest there is. Harford Tech, 86. Harford Tech's a magnet school. Aberdeen has the Math and Science Academy. I don't know how many students that is. Edgewood, they're all pretty well balanced as far as percent, but nobody's even 90 at the high school level. Don't know what that tells us about what's going to happen in the future, but eventually elementary school kids become high school kids, you would think. And right now, they're not becoming them.
Okay.
Want me to go
let's
to the
move
next one, or do you
next
want?
one,
Maybe
please.
they
Okay.
drop out.
Or were there more comments, or are you ready to listen to the next one?
Next one.
All right,
Stealing cars.
please go.
All right, ordinance 819-23. This is the changes to section 165-52, open space and recreation. This one's real simple. The fee in lieu that you've been discussing for a lot would be eliminated. So there would be no allowance for fee in lieu. And not to put too fine a point on it, if you approve fee in lieu for Harford Mall, and this goes through as it's written, they will have to come back because they won't be able to proceed. And they'll have to come back in front of you showing that they're providing the open space.
All right. Any comments?
I mean, I think, the reason you have fee in lieu is so that you just don't stop development. Because without fee in lieu, there's projects around that would never have happened, that have been beneficial to the town.
Right.
And again, like I've said, I have no problem with fee in lieu. Fee in lieu exists so that certain things can be done, but still recognize that there's a cost to doing it.
Didn't we get that at the hospital along the way? Was that one of them?
No.
The hospital, I think, had fee in.
No, the hospital has a ton
Oh,
of
no,
property.
well,
They
yeah,
have a
but
whole,
but
That's why they got the salt.
they have, Plumtree Run runs right through the middle of it, so they got a ton of property.
Okay.
By my
And I-
records, we've only had 2 fee in lieu projects that utilize fee in lieu in the past.
What were they?
One is Bradford Village.
But
Whoa.
didn't they have fee in lieu for the folks over there at the church?
Church.
They had to do something. We
The
did
Lutheran-
something with
the Lutheran church?
Did they do
No.
fee in lieu, or they had?
Oh, what they did was,
They-
they didn't
they-
do fee in lieu.
they
They
gave-
provided a walkway through Rockfield Park.
That's right.
So that was off-site
Right.
open, and that was only to satisfy their active portion of their requirement.
What does the town do with the money that they collect for fee in lieu?
Puts it into an account, and the last one that was utilized was Chesapeake Sensory Playground. Utilized fee in lieu for that
Usually for recreation
portion of it.
Where's that?
facilities.
You don't know where that's at?
Chesapeake Sensory.
Chesapeake Sensory Playground, that's in Rockfield Park, adjacent to the Creative Playground.
Oh,
where-
I should know that,
Yeah.
'cause we take care of, the Lions Club takes care of some site over there.
Yeah, take my granddaughters down there. We used to.
Okay,
All right, the next one?
go to the next one. This is Articles 2, or I'm sorry, Article 3, and also the table of lot requirements. This concerns several different sections.
Which ordinance are we on now?
I'm sorry, 820-23, I should have said that.
Okay, got you, okay.
165, 30B2, this is for the Central Business District. Actually, I'm gonna back into this a little bit. The major change is to lower the building heights in town so that they are not over 40 feet in any zone. And the zones that they are currently allowed to go over 40 feet are, if I can find it, get all the way back to the back. The B2 Central Business District, basically Main Street. That's for townhouse, semi-detached dwellings, two-family dwellings, and then what they call other permitted uses, which is basically commercial. Those would all go from 45 down to 40, or for the other permitted uses, 55 down to 40. Then,
Well, now, and you say that's anywhere in town?
no, that's just in the B2, which I'm kind of referring to as as Main Street. It's general.
So this would not apply at the hospital then, this change?
Not that particular one, but I'll get to the next one here that would.
What about, would say, Harford Mutual, is that too tall? Would that be a non-performing?
That's in the B3A, but
So it wouldn't be
it would,
subject there.
well, it's hard to look at that, but I think what we would have to do is to go and there's ways that you can figure out how tall a building is in general. I think Harford Mutual is likely to be over 40 feet. Because how you measure a building's height is between the ridge line and the eave on any kind of gable roof. So if you have a flat roof, it's to the top of the roof, and that's.
Well, then they have the clock tower up there, that would be part of the 40 feet, right?
No, the clock tower would be an exemption.
Would not be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything that's, stuff like that would be exempted. But you look at the roof itself, it's halfway between the ridge and the eave, and then down to the what they call the average contact grade. So
So
if
in
you
the-
have, a good example would be for English Country Manor, Overlook at Gateway. Those are buildings that are 3 stories on the front and 4 stories on the back.
Yeah.
So they may or may not be over 40 feet, but they both have pitched roofs. So it's going to be, those are the kind of things that we would have to determine whether or not this code would make them non-conforming. I wouldn't know at this point.
So, again, with institutional memory of this body, didn't we look at this issue exhaustively about 5 or 6 years ago?
Yes.
And this was sort of a compromise as to what the people who wanted to do some redevelopment along Main Street and other places were asking for, and what we were willing to give to them, with the recognition that we have limited space in the town, and either we concede some points with regard to height limitations, or we push business out of town.
Yeah, the height limit from all buildings really in town was 40 feet or lower. Coming up to, I think, 2009, I'm going from memory, but it's either 2009, 2010. And that was when the town adopted the form-based codes, and that allowed some 45-foot and 55-foot heights.
But even then, once we gave it to them, they found out that they still couldn't economically do it, so
Because we
Didn't
had that
happen.
one building that they were
And-
gonna look at, and it just didn't fly because they couldn't get it to work.
Right, yeah, we haven't hardly had.
We gave them the height, but they couldn't get it to work.
Right.
And I think we've talked some about this in recent times, where and I don't know how Bond Street fits into this particular proposal,
It's mostly B3A.
so it does not apply there. See,
No,
to-
it
it would apply, and to me, that's where it makes more sense, because the far side from here of Bond Street, now you're dealing with potentially very tall buildings that are in the shadow of residential neighborhoods.
Right, the
That-
neighborhoods are in the shadow of the buildings,
That,
yeah.
to me, is different than Harford Mutual, for example, not that it applies there, but if it did.
Mhm.
And that might be a place where the document could be improved upon.
Right.
And we talked some, and you alerted us to some other cities around the country have a shadow rule or something that's,
Yeah, there's various regulations. There's a lot of the cities like New York City and they have solar kind of access so that somebody isn't putting, but
Air and light.
you want to look at I mean, you're in the shadow of a building almost all the time. So here the one thing that does occur here with regard to certain uses is that certain uses are exempted from the height limit, or not exempted, but they, if you're a hospital, if you're a church, if you're a school, you're allowed to go taller than whatever's limiting you in that zone. But you have to increase your setback of 1 feet for every 3 feet you're going above that height limit. One of the things that we have not had a chance to look into is whether or not the hospital would be considered non-conforming. We just haven't had a chance to go back and look at the old approvals.
but the proposed ordinance wouldn't apply over there anyway because of the zoning, right?
It may or may not. No, the zoning is B3, and B3 is also reduced down to 40.
Oh,
But even
Well,
then,
that's-
when the hospital was in front of us for their various expansions, we discussed the height.
yep.
And I think, if I remember correctly, the consensus was that the hospital sits in a valley of sorts and really wouldn't be that intrusive on the skyline, even if they did go up.
Not to the skyline, and obviously a critical use, but also isn't in somebody's backyard.
Well,
That's,
depending on who you talk to.
or front yard. That's,
I think Mr. Sullivan might disagree with that.
Rest his
Oh,
soul.
really?
Yeah.
well, even his home was, I mean, he couldn't see the Kaufman Center from there, or even the other structure going up on Tollgate, but they're not hovering over him.
I also believe that those regulations don't necessarily apply to the front yard, which is where a lot of these buildings are oriented to. And that's something, again, I would have to go back and look. But I think it's side and rear yard, which, it's likely not to affect it, but I need to do the math.
How would this apply on Route 1? The 40 feet, does it apply down there?
Well, you mean existing buildings on Route 1?
If we had a proposed building, let's say if the latest Raising Cane chicken wasn't gonna be a chicken, but it was gonna be 45-foot office building.
It couldn't be.
It could not be.
Right, it couldn't go over 40 feet.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. Our poor court reporter needs to take a recess for about 5 minutes.
Actually, I'm not sure you need this is a recommendation, so she wouldn't need to stick around.
It's up to you guys. Do you want the
We're
court?
just talking, I mean, we're
Okay.
obviously in public, but it's not a
Okay.
public hearing, it's
Thank you, though.
conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're free to escape.
She lasted a lot longer than I did. I'll say that.
The only, so you're looking at 40 feet across the board. And then there's a minimum lot size for townhouses overall, 60,000 square feet. And then there is 2 changes which has several exhibits associated with them, but basically in the B3A and the B2, the setbacks from the street are affected by the building height. So the higher the building you go, the more of a setback you have. Both of those have no setback for anything below 45 feet currently. If everything is reduced to 40 feet, then what ended up happening was those additional setbacks are removed.
They are
and
removed.
Meaning, the regulation was if you go over 45 feet, you have to have additional setback.
Right.
But if you can't go over 40 feet in the first place,
Then you wouldn't
you
need it.
won't need the setback. So that's for both of those. And then there's a minimum side and rear setback against an R district of 20, is increased from 10 to 25.
So how many townhouses can you put in 60,000 square feet?
Depends
I-
how
I-
high they are.
I think what
If
you're
there's-
looking at is
if there's 6 stories,
basically an acre and a
lots.
half,
Right.
and that is, probably 15, something like that.
But, I hate to keep going back, but we've looked at this issue before. We looked at how many units could be in a single building, and
Right, and that section of the code is not affected. You still have that limitation,
But the-
right, where it's 6 and then you can increase it
60,000
to 8.
square feet imposes its own limitation.
Right, this is only directed to multifamily.
I'd like to know how this affects the town growth. I'm not exactly sure
That's a
how
big
that we
question.
can answer it. but-
That's really not an answerable question. Keith, just keep in mind, just because we've looked at things and gone through every 5-year comprehensive plan review and so on, the Board of Commissioners has the ultimate approval of our recommendations, and we have a new town board now, and they
Well,
have
I
some-
understand that, but, my sense is that we're moving backwards, that we're only gonna end up looking at these issues again because somebody at some point came to us and say, we want you to change your ordinance.
Well, but now somebody's coming to us and they want to change the ordinance and they want
Right, well,
to,
they
they
want-
want a
they wanna
more
prevent these
restrictive,
apartments from
they
being
want more
built.
restrictive ordinances and they're in charge of the governance of the town now. So I respect they have won the election. And they presented
just
us a
afraid
record,
this-
they
this is
presented,
a situation-
they've given us the courtesy of a look at their proposed ordinances and we'll respond in due time and then they'll make their own judgment about what
Well,
to
I'm
do.
sure they
And-
will. I don't wanna be complicit in their felony, so to speak.
Yeah, I
This
just-
this is a situation that they referred to in law school as bad facts make bad law, and I think this is bad law.
I'm just personally concerned about the consequences, of the changes in the ordinances and like Lois said, the effect it's gonna have on growth in the town. I mean, is it gonna stymie it and
Well, just to
stifle
be
it?
the devil's advocate, Pete, that might be the goal, is to slow
Yeah.
down growth. That
Well-
might be why these are proposed, and there again, that gets back to, as
soon
President
we'll get a
Obama said,
Cadillac.
elections have consequences. That's,
Yeah, I
Is he
guess.
the one who said that?
that's, I think he was one of the first to say that. I mean, so I respect the process. We just had an election, and we had a record turnout, and there was really, to my knowledge, only one issue in the campaign, and it was growth, especially as relates to apartments.
So my question then is, why did they bother sending this down to us if they're gonna do it anyway?
Well, they didn't say they were going to do it anyway. They sent it to us as a courtesy, and I respect that, and then they'll do what they want to do.
But if I
Will you give me
understood,
odds?
if I understood it correctly, since it has been presented to us, we won't necessarily take it, but we have up to 60 days, and they cannot approve these changes until that comes to them. Is that correct?
That's my reading.
Right.
I can double check, but that's my reading because of your powers.
It's interesting, council, that it was totally optional to submit it to us at all, but then once they do that, then they're obligated to wait 60 days?
Well, if you read it, I had to read it a couple times.
Because
the
it
way
said
it's-
may present to the planning commission.
Correct. And then later on in that sentence, it says, may refer to the planning commission if it decides to move forward with that request, meaning if they were going to move, they're going to move forward, which they're going to, right? They're going to hold a public hearing and they're
But
going to eventually vote on
just
it.
the term may suggests to me, well, then they didn't need to do it at all.
Yeah, but
But they have.
otherwise, they can't move forward. Does that make sense? It's part of the process.
Oh, okay.
The-
I follow your
Yeah.
interpretation of that.
Yeah, does that
I
make
get it.
sense?
And
Okay.
so if the planning commission takes 60 days, then they can't approve it till after the 60 days? Or they can-
Yeah. I mean, unless they're going to ignore it and say, no, we're going to go move forward.
Well, that'll be between you and them.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, as you know, to how other departments or commissions in town, and the CDC, and have they seen these? How do they feel about it? And
CDC.
Yeah,
CDC.
no, but,
Economic.
economic, yeah,
I was like, wait a minute, what?
yeah, whatever it is.
Well, there's going to be a public hearing December the 11th, and the economic development folks will have every opportunity to participate there, and they wouldn't have standing. We have standing by the code, and it's been referred to us where they're certainly interested parties, and I assume they'd be alerted to the public hearing and make their
Yeah.
feelings known, as would as would the Chamber of Commerce or anybody else.
Let me do the last one.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Just for the hell.
All right, this one is actually not a large one. This is ordinance 821-23, section 165-53, and also there's another section here, hold on. This concerns the maximum number, and this kind of goes, Keith, to your issue with the townhouses. Maximum number of multifamily dwelling units within a building block shall be no more than 4 units per floor, not to exceed 12 units per building block, unless the planning commission determines to increase the number of units to a maximum of 6 units per floor, not to exceed 18 units per building block, based on the intensity of the surrounding land use, the architectural design, and the layout of the development, and the distribution of parking as shown on the plans that have been submitted. So that's,
What was it before?
it wasn't, this is a
Oh,
totally
this is
new.
a totally new.
You have one that, and I don't have it in front of me because it wasn't part of this portion, but you had done something very similar to this with townhomes, and you said it, and I'm going
6
from
to a
memory,
block.
6, and it can
Could
go
go
to
to
8
Right.
if if it's determined that the layout is conducive to it. And then there's a removal in 16533B in the B3A district that no density standards are applicable. That's been removed so that this basically would apply. It's kind of acting as a density limit, even though it doesn't say that, but it is.
Good conversation, lots to digest. I concur now with Keith's guidance that we don't need to have our own public hearing since the town board is having one, but I do move that we table these recommendations on ordinances 818 through 23-23, 819-23, 820-23, and 821-23 to investigate the potential impacts of these ordinances. And the planning commission finds it has had insufficient time to review and investigate the impacts at this time.
Second.
Keith?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
There you go.
Very good. I'd like to offer some food for thought. There was a commentary, an opinion letter that was submitted to the Baltimore Sun, and I would like to read it, just a portion of it. So I quote, "I grew up in Bel Air in the 1960s when it was somewhat Mayberry-like. Downtown Bel Air was the center of commerce for much of central Harford County, and everything everyone needed was right on Main Street. Then came the 1970s and the opening of Harford Mall. Main Street was abandoned and almost a ghost town. Empty storefronts lined the street. One of the most viable businesses in town was a strip joint. Then came the 1980s and the mallification of Main Street. Stores and shops were replaced with a few restaurants, but mostly service businesses, banks, lawyers, insurance companies, and the like. This sequence happened all over the country. In the 2000s, the countrywide movement was to bring Main Streets back. Bel Air became part of the Maryland Main Street program. A serious effort was made to promote small shops and encourage restaurants to return, and it was quite successful. During this time, the town updated its comprehensive plan. Much community input went into this document, along with many public hearings and meetings. Decisions were informed by a detailed market and economic study commissioned by the town. It was approved by the town's planning commission and commissioners. One of the key recommendations in the plan was to promote more residential development, especially affordable multifamily housing in or near to downtown. This would enhance the viability of Main Street businesses and add much-needed tax revenue to the town's coffers. This housing also supports a walkable lifestyle that is much desired. I would ask the new Bel Air Board of Town Commissioners to respect our history, our journey, and the inevitability of change. Solid, inclusive planning charts our path to the future. And planning is about what we are for, not what we are against. So thank you for listening.
That was Craig Ward, by the way.
So
Craig Ward
now,
wrote that.
the last thing we have is the project status update.
I wasn't really thinking you'd be in shape for it.
Yeah, thank you.
4, that's all right.
And Maryland played last night, so we're good.
Oh, is that right? Y'all know something? It's better, right? It's been okay. Anytime. If you have any questions for me, of course, I did not get another submission for Harford Mall. We did get a submission today for the subdivision behind the Bel Air United Methodist Church that was approved by you about 6 months ago or so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They, I guess, didn't bother doing a grading plan before they did that subdivision, and then recently they have, and they wanted to turn all of the houses so the rear ends face the road, and we were, as a staff, I said, well, we can't support that.
When they came before us, they showed us with them facing Linwood Avenue.
Yeah.
And that's what we
said that
approved.
That's not gonna be something that we can support. They did revise it, they came back and revised it so that that it basically operates like the side of the house is on one side and then the front of the house on the other off of Houston Common Drive. I guess you could call it a compromise between facing to the road and turning the rear into the road.
So are they getting rid of the access onto Linwood Avenue and only using one access in and everybody
Yes.
share? Okay.
And that, in a way, is an advantage.
Well, I mean, because they
You're reducing the number
wanted to
of-
put that one like right across from.
Does it make it like a court then?
In a way, I mean, it's basically 5 lots off of, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm sorry, 4 lots off of 1 Houston Common Drive. very short Houston Common Drive. But what we saw as a staff, we were looking at only one entrance and exit onto Linwood, which is more, less dangerous. I mean, Linwood's almost a collector at that point, and reducing the number of driveways was a plus. You do have side yards to it, so when you look at that, you can add any buffering you wish to see, but that's the only thing that was submitted as of today. So
Does the proposal that they now have, now that they've tilted them, does it make it court-like?
Yes,
And we have lots of courts in town.
you do. I think the driveway would be about 18 feet wide or 16 feet wide. It's enough for 2 cars to pass.
Would they be required to do landscaping, or is it totally up to the resident?
It would be totally up to the resident, because the rear of the house is not facing the road anymore. So that would have required landscaping. This does not, but that doesn't mean you can't add that.
Yeah, but any court in Homestead Village backs up to the back of
Woods.
another house.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, you don't have any court in Homestead Village where the road. or
Is
where-
backing up to or the
where
house
it
is backing up
backing
to a
up to the
road.
road.
Yeah. No, that's what we like. We don't want to see fences, 6-foot fence going along the road.
And as they've moved this now, this one doesn't either then, right?
No.
As they've changed it now.
Yeah. So that's the only thing besides revisiting Harford Mall that you have, and the ordinances. So as far as anything else that's under construction, we have not had, Taco Bell was supposed to come back with revised architecture, and they haven't done that.
I thought we approved them.
You did, but it required revised architecture
Oh,
to meet the architectural consultant, and they came back and said, we want to get a variance from this and that and this. I said, well, you're going back to planning commission.
Tell them to
So-
go back up. All I got to do is look at the one up in Glasgow, and that would be fine. Somehow it's hard to get in Bel Air what they built in Glasgow.
The same thing will happen for Raising Cane's. There was a couple of comments that they need to adhere to.
They agree to the hours?
What?
Did they agree to the hours of operation?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
did
they didn't
that,
have to
I think.
agree.
Yeah, but
You
they said
required
it
it.
was.
They were
They
good.
didn't come back at you and say, hey, can we get?
No, I think they were expecting that. 3 o'clock in the morning is crazy.
Yeah, but if they were in a different location, 3 o'clock wouldn't be that big of a deal.
No.
There are places where 3 o'clock in the morning I wouldn't
Well,
mind,
something
but I'm
like-
not sure there's anywhere in Bel Air that I would.
Wawa's open all night, right?
Wawa's open.
Well, Wawa's, yeah.
And,
Of course, that's right out of town, though.
Right.
and
Oh,
McDonald's is open.
McDonald's
Are they
drive-through
open?
open.
Yeah,
all- It's just,
But they're in a shop.
the difference
they're
there
not
was
next to residential.
residential neighborhood,
That's
yeah.
right.
I'm pleased that they respected and agreed to everything that Mr. Adelson
Right.
requested.
So I can't think of anything else that's actively under construction. That,
Homestead Wakefield's rocking and rolling.
oh, yeah, well,
That's gonna be a big building,
that's going to be a big building.
big building.
Yeah, 2-story. 2-story with lots of clear height.
I didn't realize how close that, I mean, because, I gotta move, but when I'm over there, it's like, man, that's, the massing there is gonna be huge.
I don't much like it. I think it looks like a prison, but,
Who doesn't think a school's a prison?
yeah, well, yeah, that's true. My kids went to a prison. So I
Sadly,
don't know of
they
anything else.
They still made a terrible mistake by not putting that road where Don said, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there.
I think it would have been a great toll road. You never would have to worry about selling
Exactly.
nasty
Yeah.
wrapping paper again
Yeah.
for the rest of your life.
Ready for a motion to adjourn, Madam Chair?
Yes, and thank you very much for sitting through and being here with us. We appreciate it.